Good morning. I'm Amanda Hansen here at the Action News 5 digital desk. Let's take a live look right now. This is our High 5 camera in downtown Memphis. You can see traffic going smoothly. A little gloomy out there today. It is dry, but we are tracking the potential for some storms later on in the afternoon. Let's go ahead and get over to meteorologist Brittany Bryant. She's going to time that all out for you so you can plan your day.
Hey, good morning. We have a 2 out of 5 for severe weather risk for most of our area. Strong winds and some hail possible with thunderstorms tonight. Most of your day, you're not going to have to deal with any rain. Might squeeze out a stray shower this afternoon, but most of this doesn't start to move in until after 6 o'clock tonight. By that point, you have some rain in eastern Arkansas, a few showers in North Mississippi. Might start to see a little bit of rain in downtown Memphis. By 9 o'clock tonight, we have a widespread rain here across the Mid-South. Some downpours over towards Harrisburg and Memphis and to spots like Tunica, Oxford seeing some heavy rain as well. And those thunderstorms are with us through around 1 a.m., especially for northeast Mississippi. Memphis will be drying out by that point, and then we'll dry out for a few hours tonight, but more storms and heavy rain in the forecast tomorrow. The bullseye for that severe weather is actually off to our southwest, where you see that red. That's a 4 out of 5. But here at home, we're not being spared either. We have a 3 out of 5 for our severe weather risk for North Mississippi and eastern Arkansas and a portion of Shelby County. That is why we made tomorrow a first alert weather day. So ingredients with us for damaging winds and hail, but also a very low threat for tornadoes, which means most of us don't see tornadoes, but there's still that potential there. Also some heavy rain in the forecast, high chance for that. So some flash flooding will be possible tonight and also tomorrow. Let's look at timing. 6 a.m. tomorrow, some showers, especially for North Mississippi. So you'll have that chance for rain as we go throughout the day tomorrow. You'll have some showers here all the way through 5 o'clock. Then it looks like we'll dry out for a few hours. Now, will that be enough for us to recover from that rain earlier in the day? It's hard to say. I'm hoping that's what happens, so that decreases our instability. But that line of strong to severe storms pushes in around 1 o'clock in the morning. This is 1:30 overnight Thursday into early Friday. And that along this line from Tunica into Clarksdale is where we could see some of those severe storms and possibly a spin up tornado and damaging wind gusts. At 5 a.m., strong winds and heavy rain continues to push through North Mississippi and West Tennessee. So those wind gusts this afternoon will be around 20 miles per hour. You'll see them kick up tonight. This is 9 o'clock when that line moves through, maybe to 30 to 40 miles per hour for spots like Marks and Batesville. And then tomorrow will be windy as well, 20 mile per hour gusts in the afternoon. But then by 2 a.m., 40 to 50 miles per hour for those wind gusts, and you'll still have 40 to 50 mile per hour winds all the way through noon on Friday at the very least. As I mentioned, we also are going to be watching that chance for some flooding, a flood watch in effect from 3 p.m. today all the way through 6 o'clock on Friday. Since we have that threat for severe weather tomorrow, we have a first alert weather day. Chance for storms tonight too, as I mentioned, but severe chances are a little lower. We're in the 70s today and tomorrow, but once that front moves through here Friday morning, highs are only in the 50s. We'll also be in the 50s on Saturday, but with full sunshine, 65 on Sunday.
And again, another live look from downtown Memphis. You see those clouds already kind of spread across the sky there. Just another gloomy day. But again, we're not expecting that rain until a little bit later on this evening. All right. Well, a FedEx pilot shot in the middle of the night while in bed asleep. Did you hear about this? This pilot was sleeping in a home in Sherwood Forest, a neighborhood right next to the University of Memphis Park Avenue campus. Well, Action News 5's Joyce Peterson has all the details about what happened here.
What was going through my mind? I'm really trying to figure out what happened.
23-year-old Dylan Munn rushed to Allendale Road in Sherwood Forest Tuesday to check on his mother. She lives right across the street from where a FedEx pilot was shot while sleeping. The house, his crash pad, an inexpensive rental for out-of-town pilots. Memphis police say someone opened fire on the crash pad just after midnight.
Every time I see them, they wave, they smile. Never was a problem. Like I said, it's pilots. Like, they got stuff to live for, you know what I'm saying? So I'm pretty sure they ain't out here just risking it.
All right, no answer at the house where the FedEx pilot was sleeping, but take a look. This is the front door, broken glass everywhere. There's a bullet hole right there in the frame of the door. There's glass all over the steps. And then I want to show you the front of the house too. We found some more bullet holes in the front window. Go over here, you can see one right there, and then another one right up there. No witnesses to the shooting, no surveillance video. Investigators did find .223 caliber shell casings at the scene, the kind of bullet used in an AR-15 or rifle. The FedEx pilot was rushed to Regional 1 in non-critical condition, hit in the back near his right shoulder. In a statement, FedEx said, "Our thoughts remain focused on the well-being of our team member. We are cooperating fully with the investigating authorities at this time." Dylan Munn's thoughts are on his mother and moving her to a safer neighborhood.
It's messed up out here right now in Memphis. It really is, especially dealing with the youth. You got so much crime going on. You can't even go nowhere without getting your car broke into. When is it gonna stop? When is it gonna stop?
Now, again, that was Joyce Peterson reporting there. No suspect information, and right now the motive is unknown. Neither FedEx nor Memphis police have identified that pilot, but just unreal. You saw all those bullet holes at that home, and still no motive and no answers as to why this even happened. All right, moving on. 2 juveniles recovering after police say they were shot in downtown Memphis. The 2 boys are expected to be okay. That shooting happened around 1:30 Tuesday afternoon near East Butler and Abel, about a block east of B.B. King Boulevard. Police tell us the suspected gunman was a man in a white Dodge sedan with white rims, but so far, no arrests with this case. Well, the woman accused of driving her car into this house and killing a former pro basketball player will not spend time in jail. Miracle Rutherford pleaded guilty to vehicular homicide in the June 2021 crash that killed 45-year-old Leslie Galen Young. Rutherford was granted judicial diversion, meaning that she has to follow certain conditions, otherwise she could be sentenced to prison time. Police say Rutherford only had a license with her at the time of the had a license with her at the time of the crash, and the vehicle was not insured. Well, the U.S. Supreme Court heard arguments over President Biden's student loan debt relief plan. Arkansas is one of 6 states that sued in Biden versus Nebraska. The lawsuit argues that the president was, quote, vastly overstepping his authority, end quote. The Biden administration says the HEROES Act gives him authority to cancel debt in emergency situations. And in this case, the administration argues the COVID pandemic was that emergency.
The reason we're in court is because there are strong legal arguments to be made, and the 8th Circuit Court of Appeals agreed with us that say, look, this is unlawful. There's no congressional authorization for this.
The Biden administration says the HEROES Act gives him the authority to cancel debt in emergency situations. Like we said, that they were saying that because of the COVID-19 pandemic, this was something they felt that they could do. So a bill in Arkansas would make it illegal to use a bathroom that does not align with your child's sex assigned at birth if a child is present. Senate Bill 270 is headed for Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders' desk after passing the Senate. Opponents say it will unfairly target transgender people. Republican State Senator Bart Hester says the bill does not target any certain group of people.
Walk in and there's a child or a minor in there, they need to walk out until there's no minor in the room. It's a real simple, we feel like basic common sense bill to protect minors.
The ACLU argued during a committee meeting that this was the most extreme bathroom bill in the country. The bill does have some exceptions, such as going to the bathroom with your own child under the age of 7 and anyone giving medical help. So a group of Good Samaritans are being credited for saving a dog that was trapped on a highway in Nashville. Well, Forrest Sanders has more about this story. Can't wait to see what happens.
If you know that area of the Silliman Evans Bridge overlooking downtown, you know just how fast and hectic this stretch can be. And so the crew of Sky 5 was in for a surprise. Here, they're doing the usual, getting sunset shots, scenes of stories, views from the sky. When the crew notices, on the bridge, a woman is out of her car. She's trying to help a dog stopping traffic on that busy interstate. Officer Edward Holden of Metro Police is approaching.
I saw that traffic was backed up. I originally thought it was a traffic crash, to be honest with you.
A far stranger situation is what he finds. So Good Samaritans are helping. A woman runs over with a leash. The dog comfortable with him. A man leans over. Wait. He carefully places the leash on the dog's collar.
And definitely, if not for the two people that had the dog when I got there, or the third person that had stopped, I mean, he might have gotten hit by a car. So I opened up the door, put the dog in there. He was fine. I put the windows down for him, gave him a little air. He was just walking back and forth.
The dog was brought here to Metro Animal Care and Control. No collar tag, no microchip.
We encourage people, if their dog does go missing, to check our website.
Matthew Peters of Mac brings us a look at the dog, safe and sound at their facility.
Wasn't hurt, was in good health. It seemed like it was being fed real well. It seems like, the owners definitely cared for it. We're just hoping that owner does come through.
Peters says that the dog's here now is a credit to the people who stepped up to help.
Whether it's Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, we are always focused on the weekend. We're focused on the weekend. We're focused on date night. We're focused on what we're going to do, who we're going to see, where we're going to eat. And that's why it's so important to talk to Jennifer Chandler, the food reporter at the Commercial Appeal. And Jennifer, I guess we're talking about date night, right?
Yes, we're definitely talking about date night places if you really wanted to impress that special someone in your life. These are the restaurants in Memphis where I would make a reservation to go. They most of them are a little bit of a splurge, but they are serve great food, great service. They're some of Memphis's top restaurants. And not only am I going to share what I think are the 10 most romantic restaurants in town, I'm going to share what my favorite table for two at each one of these restaurants is.
I love it. I love it. And I love this list. Let's hit it.
Okay, well, we're going to start with A. It's kind of in alphabetical order a little bit here. So Acre is one, and this is this restaurant in East Memphis. And I think a lot of people don't realize it's there because it's kind of tucked away off of South Perkins, kind of right where the road bends there. But look at this table. They have this table for two this was in a former home. So in the front dining room, which is the smaller dining room, there is this great fireplace, and there is this table for two in front of the fireplace, and you just feel like you're, someplace, especially in the winter, someplace very romantic. And it is my favorite spot in the restaurant Acre. The restaurant is by Wally Joe and Andrew Adams. Two fabulous restaurateur chefs, and they do great food. And if you haven't been there, you need to check out Acre. And if you're going for a date night, ask for that table. But you can't go wrong with any table there. Next on my list is Andrew Michael Italian Kitchen. And Andrew Michael, again, I love these places that are in homes because I think they would create this kind of like intimate dining experience that you don't that you feel like you're kind of like this special person in someone's home. So they have these lovely dining rooms, but my favorite place is in the bar. And they have these banquettes that they created, and you can't really quite tell from this picture, but the banquettes, the sides are really, really tall. So when you sit in those banquettes, you feel like you're the only person in the restaurant. And I love that kind of nice, cozy feeling. Any seat in this restaurant is definitely romantic, and the food is great. And one of the things that I always do when we go there is I love their pastas, and I could never pick one. So we always share. So I think that a lot of the things on their menu are great for kind of like sharing for two. So definitely Andrew Michael Italian Kitchen, and ask for one of those booths in the bar. So moving on, Chez Philippe. So Chez Philippe has been, the quintessential fine dining restaurant in Memphis for decades. And they closed during COVID back in March, and they didn't reopen until this past fall. And so whereas the dining room is still that elegant, room that they have all the, you can see all of like the faux marble and all of the, it's just, there's no place like it anywhere else, but they're doing these tasting course menus there now. And they're really over the top, excellent wine service. I went in December and enjoyed my meal and my experience there. I will say if you're going to Chez Philippe, just plan on, it's a 2 to 3 hour meal. It is a, it's a production, but it is very romantic. And especially if you really want to splurge, I'd say get a room at the hotel afterwards. So that way you don't have to go home after enjoying your multi-course meal. And I forget how exact number it is. It may be 8 courses. It's a lot, but it's pretty fancy.
Yeah, I love Erling Jensen's. I was fortunate enough to be there last month, and it was a 7-course with wine pairings on each course. Unbelievable, modern French. You can't beat it.
Yeah, well, we'll mention Erling's now. That's on my list too. And, but you don't have to, you can go for a special event where you have a tasting menu like that, but Erling's does do also a la carte. And, they have my favorite table in Erling's. Is kind of, if you look in the dining room, that it is kind of, there's a two-top table that is in front of the front windows. You can see it in this picture. You can see those windows right there. There's a two-top right there, and you just kind of feel like you're a little bit away from the fray of everything going on in the restaurant. And yeah, there's a reason Erling Jensen has been, the top chef in Memphis for, I would say he's probably going on 30 years, because I had a date night with my husband at La Tourelle when he ran La Tourelle, and we've been married 25 years, and that was before we got married. So, but Erling Jensen, that's in East Memphis. It's off of Yates. Again, it's in a former home, tucked away. It's just very, very, very charming. Going back to kind of my alphabetical order, if I can keep in it, is Coastal Fish Company. Now, this is not in a home. It is not intimate at all as far as like the site, but it has the best view, in my opinion, of any restaurant in the city of Memphis. It's sitting on the banks of Hyde Lake and Shelby Farms Park. And and if you go at sunset, look how stunning that is. Just absolutely beautiful. And one of the things that's great about this restaurant, I love any seat in this restaurant, but there's this fabulous, huge patio, and in the summertime, they have fans going. So after sunset, it really kind of cools down. But in the winter, what they do is they have put up sides that run across the front that are glass sides. It's a partition. It doesn't go all the way up, but they have heaters. So, if it gets down to 20 degrees, it's not going to be comfortable there. But if it is 50 degrees, 60 degrees in Memphis, do not hesitate to sit outside and ask for one of the tables that is on the edge of the patio that directly over, you have the front row seat to that amazing view of a sunset. And don't be afraid to go to dinner early. I know early bird special, it's really not a special, but as far as, a 5:30 or 6, just time your reservation around sunset, and it's worth going to dinner early just because it's so breathtaking. Next on my list is Dory. And Dory is back on Brookhaven Circle. It's actually right next to Andrew Michael. And Dory is a lovely restaurant by David and Amanda Krog. And it is a tasting menu, kind of like we were talking about Chez Philippe. And my favorite table in this restaurant is, you can see right here, it is in the front corner, right across from the kitchen. So they have an open kitchen, so you can watch the chefs in action, and it is just really kind of fun. And since it's right there in the corner and has that partition, again, you feel like you're kind of intimate, and you feel like you're kind of in your own little private dining area. And those chefs are at this restaurant are so talented and so into what they do. It is so fun to watch them preparing your meal. So Dory is on my list. And I forget the exact night, but I should have written this down, but I believe it's on Wednesday nights. They do a little bit shorter. It's either Tuesday or Wednesday nights. You need to double check online. But they don't do their full course, 6-course tasting meal. They do a smaller one that's 4 courses, so that you don't have to make as big a time commitment when you're eating at Dory. But it's such a fabulous dining experience. I just love it. Okay, next on my list is a Memphis classic that's been around forever, Folks Folly. It's Memphis's original prime steakhouse. I mean, it's been around since the 70s, and there's nothing like those steaks that come to your table sizzling in butter. I mean, I've never had that anywhere else, but again, this is like all these other restaurants I keep saying that are like in those old original homes, but they have these private dining rooms that can seat 2 to 4. Sometimes they can seat 6, but they're kind of they have these curtains and they're kind of partitioned off, and it's just a really charming way to have a really intimate, romantic dinner, especially if your special someone loves steak. Folks Folly Prime Steakhouse is where I would go for that experience. Napa Cafe is right around the corner from Folks Folly. This is again in East Memphis. It's in the Sanderlin Center. And owner Glenda Hastings has just created this just really welcoming, well done restaurant. It's got a nice wine list. It's got a really good wine focus. And there are several places in this restaurant. I had a hard time choosing which I was going to choose my favorite romantic table, but I decided to do this one, which is called, it's in Jan's Room. It's this little nook that is off the side dining room, and it has kind of this glass sliding door, so it kind of looks into the main dining room, but it has a banquette in the corner, and it has some of her favorite cookbooks and some memorabilia on the walls behind you, and you can snuggle in that little corner and just be a little away from everything, but still have a view of the restaurant and everything going on in there. If that table is not available, there's also a private dining room in the wine cellar as well, so which is another cool experience. But again, every place of these restaurants that I'm mentioning, I'm telling what my favorite romantic table is, but there's really not a bad seat in the house. Then Supper Club on 2nd. So this is a really kind of cool, different dining experience. This is on kind of right across the street from the Peabody, and this table right here you can see is in the front window. There's one that's right in the front table, and there are like 2 or 3 right there in this kind of like nook there, and there are 2 tops, and that is where I like to sit because one, you can kind of look out on the street, but you can also look back and see the scene going on in this restaurant. So the food is excellent. I went recently and I had their version of a lobster pronto pup. I think they're called lobster dogs, and they were really good. And these short ribs that were just over the top. But I will say this one is kind of a scene a little bit because it has a club-like, it's a restaurant, it's a fine dining restaurant, but there is a club-like atmosphere a little bit, like there's loud music playing, kind of like this kind of cool soul R&B, and it's, the lights are dim, and it's a fun, different dining experience. And as I said, I love to sit in one of those front 2 high top tables and kind of watch everything that's going on in the restaurant. It was funny when they were opening it, they told me that a supper club, originally back in the 50s was, you would go to dinner and you would watch a show. And they said that they were hoping to create a restaurant where there wasn't a show per se, but dining there was the experience, was part of the show. And it definitely is kind of a fun and different kind of cool vibe to go to. And then, one more on my list, and it is a very new restaurant, The Lobbyist. So The Lobbyist at Chisca is in the historic Chisca building that is on South Main, kind of a block or so away from the Orpheum. And this is a restaurant by Chef Jimmy Gentry, and it opened in January. And it is really cool especially this is one that, a lot of times if you have people that are vegetarian, you can't take them places to eat. If your Valentine or your special someone is a vegetarian, you can take them there and they will have a fabulous meal because he has a whole big section called produce section, and I swear you will not miss the meat at all. But he does have great meat. I mean, he has great steaks and he has fish dishes and sweetbreads and all of those things. But he Debbie does vegetables really, really, really well. And so the table that I love there is that one that's under that great piece of artwork. It's in what they call their PDR, their private dining room. And you just kind of feel like you're off in the corner. It's a really nice little place because especially under that chandelier, you can see it's breathtaking. But again, not a bad seat in this restaurant as well. I think I did all 10. I hope I did all 10. But all of these places are just really true Memphis originals. They're all owned by Memphians. They're all, Memphis originals serving great food. They have good service. They're worth the splurge, as I said. Whereas I picked my favorite tables, and you can go to commercialappeal.com/food and see this list, and it does talk about each one of these tables and each one. Any seat in these houses, any seat in these restaurants is absolutely perfect.
I love that list. It is a great list. There's only 2 places I haven't been, and I got to check them out. But that list is fantastic, Jennifer. And my apologies when I interrupted you before. I said Erling Jensen. I meant to say Chez Philippe. I was at Chez Philippe last month, and it was 7 courses and wine pairings at each course. So it was. It's just such an amazing dining experience. You can't go wrong. But you can't go wrong, as you mentioned, with any of those restaurants. They're just so good. I love it.
Memphis is so lucky to have so many great places here. It's really amazing. And I have to admit, when I make these lists and I have to narrow them down, it's, first I was going to do my top 5, and I was like, I can't narrow it down to 5. I've got to do 10. And I probably could have mentioned a few more. There's so many great places here in Memphis. And I just, I always encourage people is just look and see. We've got so much cool stuff. We have a really great restaurant scene, and it just, I shouldn't probably say this, but my daughter lives in Nashville, and I've been going there a lot this year, and I go to all these places that supposedly are the best restaurants in Nashville, and we sit there and we're like, this is not as good as what we get in Memphis. So
you know what? You're not the first person that has told me that. They've said the exact same thing. We went to this place in Nashville, so we got plenty of those and better ones in Memphis. So you're absolutely right, 100%. And take Jennifer's recommendations on these restaurants. They're so good. Commercialappeal.com/food. Jennifer Chandler, as always, thanks very much.
Thanks. Good to see you.
Hey, good morning. We have a 2 out of 5 for severe weather risk for most of our area. Strong winds and some hail possible with thunderstorms tonight. Most of your day, you're not going to have to deal with any rain. Might squeeze out a stray shower this afternoon, but most of this doesn't start to move in until after 6 o'clock tonight. By that point, you have some rain in eastern Arkansas, a few showers in North Mississippi. Might start to see a little bit of rain in downtown Memphis. By 9 o'clock tonight, we have a widespread rain here across the Mid-South. Some downpours over towards Harrisburg and Memphis, and to spots like Tunica, Oxford seeing some heavy rain as well. And those thunderstorms are with us through around 1 a.m., especially for northeast Mississippi. Memphis will be drying out by that point, and then we'll dry out for a few hours tonight, but more storms and heavy rain in the forecast tomorrow. The bullseye for that severe weather is actually off to our southwest, where you see that red. That's a 4 out of 5. But here at home, we're not being spared either. We have a 3 out of 5 for our severe weather risk for North Mississippi and eastern Arkansas and a portion of Shelby County. That is why we made tomorrow a first alert weather day. So ingredients with us for damaging winds and hail, but also a very low threat for tornadoes, which means most of us don't see tornadoes, but there's still that potential there. Also some heavy rain in the forecast, high chance for that. So some flash flooding will be possible tonight and also tomorrow. Let's look at timing. 6 a.m. tomorrow, some showers, especially for North Mississippi. So you'll have that chance for rain as we go throughout the day tomorrow. You'll have some showers here all the way through 5 o'clock. Then it looks like we'll dry out for a few hours. Now, will that be enough for us to recover from that rain earlier in the day? It's hard to say. I'm hoping that's what happens, so that decreases our instability. But that line of strong to severe storms pushes in around 1 o'clock in the morning. This is 1:30 overnight Thursday into early Friday. And that along this line from Tunica into Clarksdale is where we could see some of those severe storms and possibly a spin-up tornado and damaging wind gusts. At 5 a.m., strong winds and heavy rain continues to push through North Mississippi and West Tennessee. So those wind gusts this afternoon will be around 20 miles per hour. You'll see them kick up tonight. This is 9 o'clock when that line moves through, maybe to 30 to 40 miles per hour for spots like Marks and Batesville. And then tomorrow will be windy as well, 20 mile per hour gusts in the afternoon. But then by 2 a.m., 40 to 50 miles per hour for those wind gusts, and you'll still have 40 to 50 mile per hour winds all the way through noon on Friday at the very least. As I mentioned, we also are going to be watching that chance for some flooding, a flood watch in effect from 3 p.m. today all the way through 6 o'clock on Friday. Since we have that threat for severe weather tomorrow, we have a first alert weather day. Chance for storms tonight too, as I mentioned, but severe chances are a little lower. We're in the 70s today and tomorrow, but once that front moves through here Friday morning, highs are only in the 50s. We'll also be in the 50s on Saturday, but with full sunshine, 65 on Sunday.
Amanda Hansen here at the Action News 5 digital desk, and we want to talk about an important topic, and that is colon cancer and the importance of getting screened, because with this particular cancer, it is so important, because by the time you start seeing those signs or symptoms, it's very progressed. So we have Dr. Steve Otieno joining us. He is an oncologist with Methodist Cancer Institute. Doctor, good morning. How you doing?
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
We're so
I'm
glad
fine.
to have you on. Yeah, and this is such an important thing, I think, to make sure you get the word out. And I guess the big thing to get started, when is the time for people to get screened for colon cancer?
The recommended age for screening is 45 years of 45 years of age.
Good to know. And so I know I was kind of talking a little bit about this off the top, but why is it so important that people are getting these screenings? I know during the pandemic, a lot of people were putting off some of these types of things, but explain more on why early detection is so important and these screenings.
So the early detection, if colon cancer is detected early, it increases the chances of a cure. And a cure means that the disease is completely eradicated, and you can live the rest of your natural life as you know, as you would have without the disease. So it's very important. The reason why the age is 45 is that we are seeing a few more cases, an increase in the last few years in people who are younger than 50 years old. The older recommendations recommended screening at 50 years, but currently it was reduced to 45 years of age just because of this increase in patients who are younger than 50 years of age.
Oh, wow. And, you know, I hear a lot about these at-home test kits, or these at-home kits. And, you know, can you talk a little bit about those and how they maybe are different than going in and actually getting a colonoscopy?
So the at-home kits, and I'd like to emphasize this point. So the at-home kits are supposed to be used by those who are at average risk, which means that you don't have a personal history of colon cancer, you don't have polyps in a previous colonoscopy, you don't have certain diseases that increases your risk for colon cancer, things like Crohn's disease and things like that. So the at-home kits, usually one of the symptoms, and I'm going to kind of briefly discuss the symptoms here, is you can see blood. You can either see blood in your stool, or sometimes you may not see blood in your stool. And these at-home kits, part of the home kits test for blood that's in stool, and this can be an early signal that there is something going on within your colon. So, and then there is some of the more newer tests like the Cologuard, which can test pieces of DNA that are shed from the colon cancer. However, it's important to note that if any of these tests are positive, the gold standard for screening for colon cancer is still a colonoscopy, and that is still what is used. So if any of those tests are positive, you'd still need to do a colonoscopy. So I personally recommend that if you are at age of 45 years and if there is no contraindication, that you get a colonoscopy.
Has the prep for a colonoscopy changed at all over the years?
Yes, the prep is not any patient's favorite part or anybody's favorite part, but there have kind of been improvements on the prep over the years. The volumes are smaller. The preps with the much smaller volumes. I know people who've had colonoscopies in the past are used to the big jug, big gallon of prep fluid, but there are even preps that come in terms of a much smaller volumes and they're flavored now. They used to have a nasty taste. So yes, the prep has improved over the years.
Well, that's good to know. I remember my dad before he would go get his, and he had that big jug, and it was like just hard to get through. So it's good to know that things have progressed a little bit better for people that are having to do that prep, which of course, like you said, people just kind of dread doing that part of it. What is one of the myths, though, that you would like to address when it comes to colon cancer screening? Is there something you want to make sure people know?
Yes, one of the myths that I've heard around is that it's a disease that mainly affects perhaps elderly white males. That is not entirely true. We are seeing there are more cases in the African American community, and again, also there was the myth, and I keep educating patients, family members, and friends as much as I can. One of the myths is that colon cancer was a disease of elderly people in their 60s and 70s, and that we are seeing we are seeing more and more cases in younger patients. So I think there should be vigilance even in especially in the patients who are under 50 years of age.
And I know you touched on this a little bit, but what are some of those risk factors or even symptoms that people need to make sure that they're paying attention to and that they're aware of?
Yeah, so some of the risk factors, I had alluded to some of this a little bit earlier, is a family history. If you have a family member, especially under the age of 60 years old, and in particular, first-degree relatives, so I mean parents, siblings, or children, your risk for colon cancer is increased. These are the patients who should go straight to colonoscopy, and not. I would not recommend them doing perhaps this home-based test. The other things is that there are certain hereditary syndromes. So if you have a family member with something like Lynch syndrome, for instance, you need to talk to your doctor about perhaps getting tested with some of these hereditary syndromes. Other factors that increases your risk are things like obesity, diets that are heavy in meats and low in fruits and vegetables and fibers, and things like age. That's a factor that you can't. Of course, that you cannot modify, and so those are some of the risk factors. Now, going into the symptoms, one of the more common symptoms is sometimes patients see blood in their stool, but sometimes also the patients may be anemic, but this will be detected only if you go for your checks to the primary care doctor. So I still highly encourage that, because one of the early symptoms that gets picked up, and in fact, some of the patients that we see are patients that their primary care doctor just saw that they were anemic. And then they were tested, they did a colonoscopy, and they found that. So those checks to their primary care doctor are important. Things like abdominal pain, sometimes unexplained constipation or diarrhea, those can be some symptoms of colon cancer.
And it's good to know. And like you said, it's also good to know that there are steps that you can take as far as diet and that sort of thing to help kind of be a preventative measure to keep that from happening. So, Doctor, I appreciate you. Is there anything else you'd like to share before we wrap things up here?
Again, the point I would like to emphasize is that if, to the viewers out there who are at 45 years of age or older and you've not had a colonoscopy to screen you for colon cancer, I highly recommend that you get it, because if the cancer is detected at an early stage, then it can be cured. And a lot of times you just need, if it's early enough, it can be cured just by a resection without needing any other treatments like chemotherapy and things like that. So early detection is very important to increase chances of a cure, and also basically limit the amount of therapy that you'd get in case, unfortunately, in case you're diagnosed with the cancer.
And let me ask you, doctor, how prevalent is it in this area as far as colon cancer goes? I know you mentioned some of the things like diabetes, things like that. Is there a higher number of people that maybe are diagnosed with colon cancer here in the Mid-South? Can you touch on that at all?
The average rate is about 1 in 23 men at risk for getting diagnosed with colon cancer. So if you look at 23 people, at least one of them may be diagnosed with colon cancer, and 1 in 26 women would be diagnosed with colon cancer. That's kind of the risk, the average risk.
Good to know. I appreciate you, Dr. Steve Otieno, oncologist with Methodist Cancer Institute. We appreciate your time today, and we appreciate being able to work with you all over at Methodist Le Bonheur Healthcare. Y'all do so many great interviews here with us at the Digital Desk. You have a great morning, all right?
Thank you for having me.
Okay, I want to tell you something that our friend Talisa Franklin mentioned last week, I believe. She mentioned this stage play coming to the Cannon Center downtown. It says she went to college to get an education. She came back with a life lesson. The production is called Something She Can Feel, and we are joined right now by the director, Terrell Munger, Pastor Terrell Munger. Pastor, how are you? Good morning.
I am absolutely phenomenal. I'm a morning person, so this is my time.
Awesome, awesome. I'm going to meet you right where you are because I'm feeling the same way. I appreciate you joining us here on the Action News 5 Digital Desk. So tell us what Something She Can Feel is all about.
Well, it's really using entertainment to kind of shift and influence. One of me and my wife's favorite terms is we want to normalize being in love again. And that feeling of being in love, it helps you in so many areas. I'm sure people can relate that when you're having relationship issues, it's hard for you to focus at work. It's hard for you to sleep at night. But when your relationship is healthy and you have a person that supports you, it just seems like it brings out the best in you. So we use this stage play to kind of paint that picture. Most of the people that I've talked to went through a heartbreak in their college age years, and it changed how they saw the world. Some of them never even recovered, and they don't trust men or they don't trust women. So we use this stage play. It's funny, it's entertaining, but it's a therapeutic point to look at where you are in your heart so you can fix your relationships. And I'm trying to do with this generation what shows like a different world did for my generation. Just use entertainment to inject some positive vibes into the city. We need it. And we use this stage play and this whole theme of the college experience to create that atmosphere to inspire people in life and in love.
I love it. I love the idea. It sounds great. And I see that some of the names of people that are in this play, Pastor, this is a Memphis play in more ways than one, right? Tell me about it.
It is. It's a Memphis play, and I've been writing stage plays for about 8 years now, and I've been fortunate to have a lot of sellout performances, a lot of great participation. Some of the people that I grew up with in the rap industry back when I used to rap when I was younger have always supported it. A couple of them have even been in some of my plays. And while I'm pastoring a church and doing so much, I've released like 6 books, but I haven't done a stage play in a while. And I thought this would be a great time with everything that's going on in the city to just inject some of this positivity. It's funny, and it deals with something that a lot of people know about, but they don't pay attention to. Most women have emotional needs, and men use those emotional needs to manipulate women. And a lot of times they don't even realize they're being manipulated until they got caught up in the web. So I use this stage play to not only help women look out for some of those red flags, but to help men, some men, see what they're doing to some women. So it's really a learning point, it's a funny point, and it's a therapeutic point.
That sounds fantastic, and I'm really looking forward to checking it out. So give us the details about it. It's early next month. It's going to be at the Cannon Center. How much are tickets, and where people can get those tickets?
Yeah, I definitely work to make the tickets very affordable. The tickets are $55 for the down front VIP section, $45 general admission. Is going to be at the Cannon Center, March 4th at 6 p.m. Of course, you can get your tickets on Ticketmaster. You can also get your tickets and see more information about these productions at tntworld.org. We call it TNT World because my name's Terrell, my wife's name Tiffany, and we even went through some relationship challenges ourselves that almost ended in divorce about 4 years ago. So we took the lessons we've learned to try to help other people, and so we had to blow up our individual worlds and create a world that made sense for us, and we believe other people can do the same. That's why we call it TNT World Production. You can see it at tntworld.org.
Fantastic. I love it. So this is March 4th. It's only one day. Is that right?
It's one day and it's a whole experience. We have a lot of the Greek organizations coming out. We have the Craigmont Marching Band is going to open it up, coming through the lobbies with the drum majors and the majorettes. It's going to be a huge, huge, huge event that you just have to experience. It's more than a stage play. This is a total experience.
I love it. I love it, Pastor. Okay, one more time for our audience there. This is Something She Can Feel, stage play at the Cannon Center downtown, March 4th. One night only, March 4th, and it's for everybody. It's for the whole family, right?
Correct. It's a family-oriented stage play, and it really helps you to not only value each other's journey, but it brings you closer to see the differences between men and women to strengthen your relationship. So if you got young daughters, if you got young men, they need to see it now before they run into those college-age experiences that damage how they see the world. So it's something great to talk about, like we used to sit in front of the TV together. Back in the day, you get to sit in the same room and enjoy the same experiences to have some conversations about it.
I love everything you're saying, Pastor. Really appreciate your time this morning. Best of luck. Congratulations on the stage play. We look forward to hearing more about its success after March 4th. Appreciate you joining us. Take care.
Thank you so much.
Hey, Andrew Douglas here in the Action News 5 digital desk. Let's talk about education in the state of Tennessee. And from what we understand, Tennessee House Speaker Cameron Sexton floated the idea of the state rejecting federal funding for K-8 education. He wants to free up Tennessee schools from various federal rules and restrictions that go along with accepting these dollars. Right now, the state of Tennessee gets about $1.8 billion annually from the federal government for K-12 education. And the Tennessee House Speaker says the state has had enough revenue to cover any difference, but does a shift like that certainly would mark a major change in how Tennessee funds education. Let's talk more about this with Marta Aldrich. She is a reporter with Chalkbeat Tennessee, State House reporter there. Marta, glad to have you back on the digital desk. How are you?
Thank you. Very well.
Good. So $1.8 billion, that's a lot of money for Tennessee to forego. Tell us, is this actually feasible, and what would it mean?
So, well, first of all, I want to say Speaker Sexton, people have asked me if this is a serious proposal, and Speaker Sexton says he is serious. In fact, his words to me were, I absolutely think we should do it. But he added that he wants to start a conversation about the idea, and that it doesn't mean that Tennessee should make this kind of massive shift this year. And spokespeople for Governor Lee and for Lieutenant Governor Randy McNally have also indicated that their offices are open to exploring the possibility. And several top education leaders in the House have expressed outright enthusiasm for this idea. They say it would give Tennessee more autonomy when it comes to educating our students. But there are other lawmakers who say they have a lot of questions still.
So I've heard from Republicans in Tennessee and other states that have talked about this move, this idea, saying that CRT, woke ideology, they want to stay away from that, and that's what they say is one of the main reasons why they want to reject funding, because otherwise there will be a lot of, I guess, strings attached to that money. My understanding is no states really rejected federal funding. Is this feasible? Could Tennessee do it? And if so, how?
So yes, Tennessee could reject the federal funding. The reason that no state has ever done this before is that states typically need the money. Federal funding makes up about 1/10 of their K through 12 education budget. Leaders in other typically Republican-leaning states have talked about this idea before. In Oklahoma right now, lawmakers are currently considering legislation to phase out federal ed funding over 10 years. And there are also small school systems across the state that have passed on federal money. That's usually because of the cost of compliance for those school systems. I will say, how are we going to do this? Now, if it happens, Speaker Sexton has made this funding pivot sound pretty simple. You know, just substitute the state funding for federal education funding. But it really would not be that simple. The way that the federal funding works is actually pretty complex. Some districts and schools are more dependent than others on that money, and the lion's share goes to schools that serve disadvantaged students. And there are other federally funded programs and grants that target certain needs that range from rural education and English language learners to technology and charter schools. And all of these matters go through the U.S. Department of Education. But there's also a variety of federal school grants that go through the U.S. Department of Agriculture to provide free meals to qualifying students. And there's a related web of state laws and policies that have been created in response to most of these federal grants. That web likely would have to be unwound if Tennessee decided to go it alone.
I gotcha. And so, Speaker Sexton, he granted you an interview. You talked to him about these different things. Did he mention why they would want to do that? Is it because of various ideological differences with this administration, with the federal government here in Tennessee? I mean, did he talk specifics with you about why they would do that? Is it because of ideology?
Well, he didn't say that. He says that testing is the main problem. States that take federal money must give annual tests in reading and math in grades 3 through 8 and once in high school. They're also required to give a science test one time each in elementary, middle, and high school. So each state has to give 17 tests annually, although no individual student takes more than 3 of those tests in a given year. Speaker Sexton says Tennessee overtests and that it doesn't give the right test. He says Tennessee should scrap or could scrap the TCAP test, which our state developed through its own testing companies, and then create a better test with the help of its educators. But if Tennessee wants to do that, it probably could already do it in conversation with the U.S. Ed Department. States already have more flexibility than ever to develop their testing, evaluation, and accountability systems under a 2015 federal law that was crafted with the leadership of Tennessee's former senator and governor, Lamar Alexander. Beyond the issue of testing, I don't think many people would dispute that accepting federal funding comes with a lot of red tape. There's mounds of paperwork. There's numerous audits of how the money is spent. All of that is part of a huge bureaucratic infrastructure that comes with administering billions of dollars of federal funding. Sexton has not given us the list of his other beefs, although we've asked him numerous times for that list. But some do suspect that his bigger objections are related to current culture war issues about curriculum and whether transgender students should be allowed to use school bathrooms or play sports consistent with their gender identity, which may not correspond with the sex that is listed on their birth certificates.
So all these changes, Marta, you know, a lot of people are wondering, okay, what are the changes if they do happen? What would they mean for schools, and specifically, what would they mean for kids?
Yeah. So if Tennessee opts to do this, it possibly could disrupt finances for schools, but it really depends on how it's done. Through a program called Title I, the U.S. government distributes hundreds of millions of federal dollars to Tennessee schools that serve large concentrations of students from low-income homes to help them improve achievement. Now, if Tennessee replaced Title I funding with state money, would it still use the federal formula for distributing that money? Sexton has not said. This is particularly important for Memphis Shelby County schools because all but 8 of the school system's 155 district-run schools have Title I designations. And if you add up all the various pots of federal education money due to MSCS, the district is projecting to get more than $892 million in federal dollars next school year. As for what it could mean for kids, that's really the most important question, right? And the answer is there's just a lot of uncertainty. Speaker Sexton has said his intention is for the state to fund all of the programs currently covered by the federal government, but he's not given details about what that would look like. For instance, for students with disabilities that are currently protected by the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. That federal statute says schools that accept federal funds must identify students with disabilities and give them a free and appropriate public education that's tailored to their needs. Now, Sexton says the state can come up with a similar program that he believes could be better, but the Tennessee Disability Coalition says there's no assurance that a Tennessee version would give families the same or better protections than under the current federal laws that are designed to protect students with disabilities.
Are they going to discuss this during this legislative session? I mean, it sounds like Sexton floated the idea, and now it's time for state lawmakers to discuss it. So there's not going to be the details that we know that we're asking about right now. Is this something that could eventually be resolved this legislative session, or might it be something that's afterwards?
I would seriously doubt it. He has not filed an amendment to an existing caption bill that would lay out his plan. And really until people see the details, there can be no serious discussions. This is a 2-year legislative session. We're at the very beginning of the 2-year session. So he could file a bill to be discussed in next year's legislative session, and it would still count because it's part of this current General Assembly. So I would not anticipate anything immediately, but you never know.
Yeah, I got you. Marta Aldridge, Chalkbeat reporter for the Tennessee State House. We appreciate you writing a very detailed article about this very issue. By the way, why don't you tell our viewers where they can read this article?
Just Google Chalkbeat Tennessee. And you can find our website and read our ongoing coverage that has to do with both state policy and Memphis Shelby County schools.
Okay, Marta Aldridge, we appreciate you and your time. Thanks so very much.
Thank you.
Hey, good morning. We have a 2 out of 5 for severe weather risk for most of our area. Strong winds and some hail possible with thunderstorms tonight. Most of your day, you're not going to have to deal with any rain. Might squeeze out a stray shower this afternoon, but most of this doesn't start to move in until after 6 o'clock tonight. By that point, you have some rain in eastern Arkansas, a few showers in North Mississippi. Might start to see a little bit of rain in downtown Memphis. By 9 o'clock tonight, we have a widespread rain here across the Mid-South. Some downpours over towards Harrisburg and Memphis and to spots like Tunica, Oxford, Oxford seeing some heavy rain as well. And those thunderstorms are with us through around 1 a.m., especially for northeast Mississippi. Memphis will be drying out by that point, and then we'll dry out for a few hours tonight, but more storms and heavy rain in the forecast tomorrow. The bullseye for that severe weather is actually off to our southwest, where you see that red. That's a 4 out of 5. But here at home, we're not being spared either. We have a 3 out of 5 for our severe weather risk for North Mississippi and eastern Arkansas and a portion of Shelby County. That is why we made tomorrow a first alert weather day. So ingredients with us for damaging winds and hail, but also a very low threat for tornadoes, which means most of us don't see tornadoes, but there's still that potential there. Also some heavy rain in the forecast, high chance for that. So some flash flooding will be possible tonight and also tomorrow. Let's look at timing. 6 a.m. tomorrow, some showers, especially for North Mississippi. So you'll have that chance for rain as we go throughout the day tomorrow. You'll have some showers here all the way through 5 o'clock. Then it looks like we'll dry out for a few hours. Now, will that be enough for us to recover from that rain earlier in the day? It's hard to say. I'm hoping that's what happens, so that decreases our instability. But that line of strong to severe storms pushes in around 1 o'clock in the morning. This is 1:30 overnight Thursday into early Friday. And that along this line from Tunica into Clarksdale is where we could see some of those severe storms and possibly a spin-up tornado and damaging wind gusts. At 5 a.m., strong winds and heavy rain continues to push through North Mississippi and West Tennessee. So those wind gusts this afternoon will be around 20 miles per hour. You'll see them kick up tonight. This is 9 o'clock when that line moves through, maybe to 30 to 40 miles per hour for spots like Marks and Batesville. And then tomorrow will be windy as well, 20 mile per hour gusts in the afternoon. But then by 2 a.m., 40 to 50 miles per hour for those wind gusts, and you'll still have 40 to 50 mile per hour winds all the way through noon on Friday at the very least. As I mentioned, we also are going to be watching that chance for some flooding, a flood watch in effect from 3 p.m. today all the way through 6 o'clock on Friday. Since we have that threat for severe weather tomorrow, we have a first alert weather day. Chance for storms tonight too, as I mentioned, but severe chances are a little lower. We're in the 70s today and tomorrow, but once that front moves through here Friday morning, highs are only in the 50s. We'll also be in the 50s on Saturday, but with full sunshine, 65 on Sunday.
Amanda Hansen here at the Action News 5 digital desk. And if you're not hungry right now, you're about to be, because on Wednesdays, we like to talk with Commercial Appeal food reporter Jennifer Chandler. She's always bringing us the good eats around the Mid-South. Jennifer, good morning. How you doing?
Good morning. I'm doing very well, except for I don't like this weather forecast.
I know, right? I'm just kind of like, man, I don't want any rain. It's gloomy outside. We're halfway through the week. So, yeah, it is what it is. But you know what? We'll get through it. We'll get through it. And I know today... Today we're talking about crawfish, and before we really dive in, I lived in Arkansas for several years, you know this, and it seemed like every other weekend it was a crawfish boil. It was part of like summer and spring, and so I was so excited to be talking about this today.
Yes, I mean, it definitely is. It's like Herald Spring. I mean, you know, March is now here pretty much, and spring is, you know, daffodils are springing, and that means crawfish are available. So the season traditionally runs kind of like mid to end of February through May or June. For me, the ones that become in the beginning of February tend to be a little smaller. They're a little more expensive. So in my opinion, it really kind of kicks off right now at the beginning of March, and April and the beginning of May are the best time to enjoy crawfish. So in my opinion, every weekend you should be partaking in crawfish somewhere, somehow. And what's really cool is there are so many options to get crawfish here in Memphis there's so many more than there used to be. So you can get authentic crawfish boils, and most of this crawfish is brought up from Louisiana and boiled fresh right there, and it's just like the same experience you would have if you were visiting New Orleans.
And I have some video that I snagged from commercialappeal.com. And I don't know if you want to go ahead and start going through your list of spots, like where people can go to maybe find.
I'm going to tell you some of the ones you can do, because it's pretty crazy how it's all over the city of Memphis. And so I have a little cheat sheet right here. I might look at it every once in a while. But one of my favorites that I've been going to a long time, Cajun Crawdads. That's a good one. is that Billy's Crawfish in Hernando. That is a great one to go to. Billy Crumley has been bringing up crawfish from Louisiana every week for years and years and years now. I've had it boiled from his truck, and I've also bought live from him myself for parties. Crawfish Cabin, if you're looking for one that's in the city of limits of Memphis, it's at Walnut Grove and Houston Levee, and they talk about how they have the really spicy New Orleans style crawfish. I believe they also do boiled shrimp as well. You might need to double check that to make sure they're doing that this year. Crawfish Shack, which is on Poplar and June Road, which is basically Poplar and Yates in front of, I believe that store there is called Oxbow. They're there every week and serving up crawfish. That's really convenient for those that live in the city of Memphis. Right down the road too is Memphis Crawfish Company 2, which is at 5133 Park. Those are the two that are really kind of in the heart of Memphis proper. One of the funny things, there's Memphis Crawfish Company 2, which is in Memphis, but Memphis Crawfish Company 1 has been in Olive Branch for they're celebrating their 20th year this year. And so Memphis Crawfish Company 2 is run by somebody else, but they buy all their crawfish and have it brought up from Memphis Crawfish Company 1. So there are lots of places that are, those are all that I talked about are food trucks. And so most of these places serve you know, boiled seafood, and you can also order live seafood, live crawfish from them if you want to boil your own. Most, you have to check on my list I have on commercialappeal.com. I have all of this information, or you can go to their social media sites or their websites. But most are open Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, sometimes Sunday. Most sell out by Sunday. And if you want to order live crawfish, you really need to do it like at the beginning of the week, because these people drive down to Louisiana like on Tuesdays and Wednesdays and drive it back up here. So it is super fresh live crawfish. I'm also going to mention a couple of places that you can go to if you do want more of a restaurant experience versus a food truck. Glaze's Crawfish, Glaze Hardage, he has a side business that he does, and he does a great job. I think that's a picture from one of his boils, if I'm not sure. But he cooks every Saturday during the season at Max's Sports Bar down on downtown. It's kind of in the South Main area. It's kind of right down the street from the arcade. And then this year, every Sunday, he is going to be cooking at Laughlin Yard. So you can go to either one of those places and get your crawfish and get a cocktail or a beer to go with it. Billy's Crawfish, I mentioned Billy Crumley. He has his food truck, but he also has a restaurant in Hernando called Crossroads Seafood. And you can get everything from boiled crawfish there to gator to, he has a really good a shrimp kind of bisque, a shrimp chowder that he does, a seafood chowder that's really, really good. And then also Rail Garden will be hosting boils every Thursday night during the season. So it just, you know, a lot of those things I would say, these outdoor ones at venues like Laughlin Yard and Rail Garden, just check their social media if the weather's bad. Because sometimes if the weather is bad, they're not going to host them. But sometimes they do them in the rain. So it's just, if you're really hungry for crawfish, there are lots of options you can go to.
I'm probably going to be going to either Rail Garden or Laughlin because, for one, I like the atmosphere of those places. It kind of reminds me of what your traditional crawfish boil would be like, because it seemed like we'd always put the red and white checkered cloth across the table. You just dump it all out on the table and you eat, and you know, you have the big garbage can, and it's kind of just like, I don't know. I love it. I love it. And so it's so much fun. And I know you were going to talk a little bit about how to cook crawfish. And one thing I wanted to ask, do you normally are you the kind of the traditionalist when it comes to like the corn, the potatoes, or do you kind of throw some other stuff in there to make it fun?
Well, that's one of my tips that I'm going to give you. But yes, I normally do all of the normal things, but I have a friend who introduced me to throwing Brussels sprouts into your crawfish boil. And it is so, so good. Now, I did take a moment, and, you know, I've been cooking crawfish myself. We've hosted crawfish boils for years, and I giggle when you said you put down a red and white checkered tablecloth because you're much more fancier than we are because I just throw down newspapers.
Hey, that works too, right?
Yeah, I work for the paper. I have newspapers now. One of the things that I talked to him for a minute to Glaze Hardage to get his expert tips to make sure that I was doing everything correct as far as doing my crawfish. And luckily, most of the things I was doing correctly. So I want to make sure I was excited to hear that. But one of the first things he says that when you are cooking live crawfish is you need to give your crawfish a bath. Because, they don't call them mud bugs for nothing. They are covered in mud and because they burrow down in the mud. And so you want to get all of that stuff off of them before you cook them. So the easiest way to do that is to put your crawfish in a bucket or in some type of tub, put the hose in it and just keep running the cold water on it until the water runs clear. That's simple to do. So always give your, number one tip, always give your crawfish, your mud bugs, a bath so that they're no longer muddy. Then when it comes to seasoning, you can always, this is some tips that I learned. Glaze goes all out when he does his seasoning. I've always used like crab boil or crawfish dry seasoning and kind of left it, maybe thrown some lemons in there, maybe some garlic and left it at that. But I'm looking at my list right now just so I can tell you all the things that Glaze puts in his seasoning blend. He puts crawfish dry seasoning. He puts liquid crab boil. He puts lemons and lemon juice. He puts hot sauce. He puts garlic. He puts onions, celery salt, and then if that's not spicy enough, he adds a little bit of cayenne to kind of kick it up another notch. It's kind of crazy, isn't it?
Wow. Well, and for me, I'm one of those people that I want to be crying when I'm eating my food. I like it that spicy. I'm one of those people. So to me, I'm like, ooh, that sounds amazing. And I know you were talking about putting Brussels sprouts in there, which I have had before. It is delicious, like you said. But I've even had people that put okra in there or mushrooms, and it's actually pretty good too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Glaze told me that he, in addition to the corn and sausage and potatoes, I love the idea of okra. I've never done that before. I'm gonna try that this year. But he also has put these things. Some of these things are crazy. He's put pineapple in there. He's put asparagus. He's put baby carrots. He's put sweet potatoes. Now he doesn't do that at the crawfish boils that you're gonna go to at Max's Sports Bar or Laughlin Yard. But when he's cooking for his friends and family, and he'll throw all of these kind of crazy things in there to kind of mix it up. And one of the things I always tell people in Mornham is when you take a bite of corn or potato, you think you're going to take a bite of that so that it's a little less, that you're going to be calming down the heat. I found actually sometimes those things are spicier than the crawfish themselves.
I agree. And I like the idea of pineapple. I could see how that would work, with the spiciness and kind of paired with the sweetness. I could see how that would actually work. That sounds like a good idea that I would have never thought to try.
Yeah. And I'm going to add one more tip since you like them spicy. Is one of the things that Glaze says to do is always, after your crawfish is cooked, let it soak for about 20 to 30 minutes. So all of those flavors and spices really infuse into the meat and all of your sides that you have thrown in there. But one of the things that's you kind of need to reduce the heat a little bit. So what he does, he suggested a couple of things. You could throw ice in there, but that'll kind of dilute, all the spices. So he often will throw frozen corn, like the corn on the, little corn on the cob that you often see at crawfish boils. He'll throw those in there to reduce the temperature. Or he talked about, and I have to go look this up. He says there's a new gadget called the Boil Boss, and it somehow you put it around your pot, and it circulates cold water around the pot to reduce the temperature to the ideal temperature so that when you can allow your crawfish to soak. It's kind of interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, it sounds like something that I would probably see on an infomercial, and it would tell me 10 reasons why I should buy it, and I would automatically buy it because I'm like, this is amazing. But it's so cool, the gadgets they have out there right now, and my kitchen is actually full of all kinds of, I like to cook. So, yeah, but that sounds interesting.
Yeah.
I've never even heard of that, so good stuff.
Yeah, and I always tell people, when you go to a crawfish boil, if it's your first time to eat crawfish, don't be daunted. They are these little crustaceans that you're kind of pulling apart and you're eating with your hands. And there's always usually somebody at the party or somebody there that is from Louisiana or has been eating them their whole life. Or you can invite me and I'll come over and I'll show you how to eat them. But don't be afraid to do that and to get your hands all messy. And, you know, it's one of those things that you eat the tails and you suck the heads. All those good juices from the spices, especially if you like things spicy, is suck that meat and that juice out of that head. And it is just, it's so good.
It's so good. No, I'm right there with you. And I love this. And all this information is on commercialappeal.com. You even have a video on there. I saw that on how to eat crawfish. So if people have never had crawfish before and they need to know the process from a pro, you have all that covered for everybody.
Yeah, and there are more places than we mentioned on that list too. I do this list. I selfishly do this list for me every year because I love to eat crawfish so much. And it's a full list. It has their hours. It has links to their websites or their social media. Tells you kind of what they offer, and that whole list is up there for you. So depending on what part of town you're in, there is an option for you. But just remember, if you're going to order boiled crawfish, order live crawfish to boil yourself, you want to do that. You know, my rule of thumb is I always order on Monday. And most of these people just let you email them or text them or call them. It's a pretty easy process.
Great. Well, Jennifer, we love having you on each and every time that you join us, and you're always bringing it. So you have a great rest of your day, and I am looking so forward to crawfish season.
Yeah. Enjoy some this weekend.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.
All right.
Sepal, petal, and a thorn. Upon a common summer's morn, a flash of dew, a bee or two, a breeze, a caper in the trees, and I'm a rose. One of many poems penned by Emily Dickinson showcasing her love of gardening and the flowers within, a beauty that also envelops visitors to the Memphis Botanic Garden. It began in 1953 when the city gave a portion of Audubon Park to garden enthusiasts.
And what happened is, back in those days, there were all these different garden clubs. So you had a Rose Garden Club, and you had the Hosta Club, and you had the Iris, and all the different ones. And they needed a place both to sort of meet for their membership. Over the years, with a few exceptions, most of those garden clubs have ceased to exist. And so the Botanic Garden now maintains each of those gardens.
31 gardens on 96 acres just off Cherry Road in East Memphis.
The Japanese garden is my favorite. I find the Japanese garden with the lake there, the koi fish, to be the most serene, most calming, most beautiful space that we have.
A fan favorite since 1965. The Red Bridge, a source of serenity for the hundreds of thousands of garden visitors each year.
On a typical year, we'll have about 240,000 visitors to the Memphis Botanic Garden. Of that 240,000, about 44-ish thousand are school kids. Another 30,000 are visitors to Live at the Garden, to our music series. And the rest are folks who, generally speaking, come here to walk the grounds or attend one of the events.
Events like last year's Alice's Adventures at the Garden, a seasonal outdoor exhibit featuring thousands of blooms shipped to Memphis and assembled on site using cranes.
Alice behind us is actually composed of 7 planted pieces, and she contains more than 15,000 individual plants and stands about 19 feet tall. We actually have dedicated full-time staff that every single day are out here caring for these wonderful sculptures. Every single day they need to be watered. Some parts have to be twice a day, if it's too hot, if it's humid, if it hasn't rained in a while.
Gone now are the Red Queen and White Rabbit as the garden prepares for a new exhibit called Rich Soil in May. The Live at the Garden Summer Concert Series also returns this year, where visitors can spend an evening under the stars, rocking out at the Radians Amp. The lineup usually consists of both legendary and contemporary artists from the worlds of rock, country, and R&B. There's also plenty of fun for the little ones.
The kids can go to the koi pond, feed the koi fish, They can go see our loud chickens over here in the new chicken coop in the urban home garden.
One of my favorite spots is the pollinator garden in our lowlands. There's a caterpillar house there, so you can see some caterpillars, trying to become butterflies. There are just lots to discover, and we really hope folks want to come out and enjoy the garden.
The interesting byproduct of the pandemic is that it has taught us to adapt in ways that I'm not sure we thought we could adapt in the past. So it's taught us to be innovative, it's taught us to take some chances, and it's taught us things that I think will carry over into the future.
Here's to 7 more decades at the Memphis Botanic Garden. Kim Clark, Action News 5.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Andrew Douglas in the Action News 5 digital desk. Electric vehicles. Let's talk about them for a minute. They're gaining in popularity, but even though you're going to see more electric vehicles out on the roadways, many consumers still have a lot of questions on whether or not electric vehicles are right for them. Let's bring in James Bell. He's head of corporate communications for Kia America. Good morning, James. How's it going?
Good morning, dude. I'm playing with cars. It's a good day.
Yeah, tell me first off, where are you and what you're sitting in front of there? Looks like an EV.
Yes, you're right. I'm in Southern California. We're getting ready for the big blizzard. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, this is what's called our EV6 GT. This one's a really special one. Has about 576 horsepower to 0 to 60 in a little over 3 seconds. Takes on and beats a lot of Ferraris and Lamborghinis. So we're pretty excited about this car, and people seem to be loving it too. It's been on sale for about a year now, and we can't make them fast enough.
So tell me more about the idea of electric cars, because there's so many people that are very apprehensive to go to EV vehicles, or EVs, I should say, because they're just used to gas powered. There's more flexibility. There's a lot more autonomy, according to some people that have gas powered vehicles. What would be your best argument for EVs?
You know what? It's not even an argument. It's just recognition of this phase that we're in. I like to equate it back to what it must have been like when people went from horse-drawn carriages to gasoline-powered cars. There was a lot of folks that said, well, this gasoline thing will never work. There's not a gas station on every corner. This is, I just feed my horse hay and away it goes. We're in that same kind of premise right now with this transition time. I think, however, we're going to see the transition happen a lot quicker. So if somebody, has an incredibly long commute or needs to drive to grandma's house on a regular basis, then maybe a gasoline-powered car is the best choice today. But in a very short amount of time, the electric vehicles are going to be a better option. And by the way, for most Americans, which drive on the average about 28 to 30 miles a day, imagine if you never had to go to the gas station again. Imagine every time you left your home, you had so we call it a full tank of gas or a full state of charge. It's a very luxurious experience. And I think once people try it, they recognize that this is probably a better option for their families. But again, this is transitional. We're not just going to suddenly get rid of all gasoline stations and gasoline powered vehicles. We're in a transition time. And over time, it will eventually evolve towards electric.
There's a lot of questions, James, about the power grid. I don't know if you could speak to that, but, a lot of people concerned about the power grid being able to handle the demand of electric vehicles. If there is this demand and it increases over time, there's a lot of people that say the power grid just can't handle it.
Well, I think they're being a little short-sighted there. The industry, the government, the entire infrastructure system recognizes that this is the future. It's going to happen, folks. It's going to get that way, but it's not going to just happen tomorrow. There's going to be investment. There's going to be upgrading of facilities. It was newsworthy back in the summertime here in Southern California. We had a series of very warm days, and there was a short period of time when the government, state government said, please back off use of too much electric power. And then that suddenly became, now I can't charge my car. It's an isolated incident, very, very rare. And I think it is not recognizing the fact that there is this huge, multi-billion-dollar investment going on in the infrastructure to prepare for this day when we all drive electric. Because again, this day is coming. It's not tomorrow. It's not in 5 years, but it's coming.
A lot of people are concerned about, one, how long it takes to charge a vehicle, and two, the distance that people will travel with one charge. Sure. There have been a number of different independent journalists that have taken, for example, other vehicles, trucks and that sort of thing, to various charging stations. It takes forever, or there's an extraordinary long wait in line for a charger to become available, and then once you get there, it takes forever for that battery to be charged. Tell me about the vehicle that you're sitting in front of.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. So we're really proud at Kia. All of our electric vehicles have what's called 800-volt charging systems available. So built in is the ability to basically take on a level 3 charger, of which the number of those is incredibly increasing all across the country. It can go from a 10% state of charge to over 80% in about 18 minutes. Now, stop and think for a moment. When you go to the gas station, you plug in the nozzle, walk into the station, get a Gatorade, go to the restroom, get a snack, come back, maybe throw away some garbage, clean the windows. It's probably a 10 to 12 to 15 minute project anyway. So I think once we see this level 3 charging, again, which the Kia vehicle is already prepared for, that will really wash away some of that. But again, I know the kind of journalist trips that you're talking about. It does take a little more time and coordination to use a vehicle on, say, in a long distance or a cross-country trip today. And that's why gasoline-powered cars are still here, and they will continue to be here for some time in the future. But we're in this phase. We're going towards that place. And I think, have me back on your show in 3 or 4 years, and I think that concern about having charging stations available and ability to high-speed charge, or what's called level 3, will be in a much more advanced place than it is today. And that's the nature of transitional times.
How long does a charge last? How many miles? And how much does that car retail for?
Well, we have several different versions of this vehicle. This one gets about 250 miles on a charge, but again, this is faster than many Porsches and Ferraris. So this is a special one. But we have another version called the Wind and the EV6 GT line, which average about 280 to 320 miles on a charge. And that's more than enough. As I mentioned earlier, average American drives about 28 miles per day. So as you can see, you wouldn't even need to charge every day to use a vehicle that has in excess of 300 miles of range on a full charge.
All right, James. Well, listen, we appreciate your time. Thanks for talking with us about electric vehicles and the landscape and how it looks to be changing over the course of the next several years. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Hey, good morning. We have a 2 out of 5 for severe weather risk for most of our area. Strong winds and some hail possible with thunderstorms tonight. Most of your day, you're not going to have to deal with any rain. Might squeeze out a stray shower this afternoon, but most of this doesn't start to move in until after 6 o'clock tonight. By that point, you have some rain in eastern Arkansas, a few showers in North Mississippi. Might start to see a little bit of rain in downtown Memphis. By 9 o'clock tonight, we have a widespread rain here across the Mid-South. Some downpours over towards Harrisburg and Memphis and to spots like Tunica, Oxford seeing some heavy rain as well. And those thunderstorms are with us through around 1 a.m., especially for northeast Mississippi. Memphis will be drying out by that point, and then we'll dry out for a few hours tonight, but more storms and heavy rain in the forecast tomorrow. The bullseye for that severe weather is actually off to our southwest, where you see that red. That's a 4 out of 5. But here at home, we're not being spared either. We have a 3 out of 5 for our severe weather risk for North Mississippi and eastern Arkansas and a portion of Shelby County. That is why we made tomorrow a first alert weather day. So ingredients with us for damaging winds and hail, but also a very low threat for tornadoes, which means most of us don't see tornadoes, but there's still that potential there. Also some heavy rain in the forecast, high chance for that. So some flash flooding will be possible tonight and also tomorrow. Let's look at timing. 6 a.m. tomorrow, some showers, especially for North Mississippi. So you'll have that chance for rain as we go throughout the day tomorrow. You'll have some showers here all the way through 5 o'clock. Then it looks like we'll dry out for a few hours. Now, will that be enough for us to recover from that rain earlier in the day? It's hard to say. I'm hoping that's what happens, so that decreases our instability. But that line of strong to severe storms pushes in around 1 o'clock in the morning. This is 1:30 overnight Thursday into early Friday. And that along this line from Tunica into Clarksdale is where we could see some of those severe storms and possibly a spin-up tornado and damaging wind gusts. At 5 a.m., strong winds and heavy rain continues to push through North Mississippi and West Tennessee. So those wind gusts this afternoon will be around 20 miles per hour. You'll see them kick up tonight. This is 9 o'clock when that line moves through, maybe to 30 to 40 miles per hour for spots like Marks and Batesville. And then tomorrow will be windy as well, 20 mile per hour gusts in the afternoon. But then by 2 a.m., 40 to 50 miles per hour for those wind gusts, and you'll still have 40 to 50 mile per hour winds all the way through noon on Friday at the very least. As I mentioned, we also are going to be watching that chance for some flooding, a flood watch in effect from 3 p.m. today all the way through 6 o'clock on Friday. Since we have that threat for severe weather tomorrow, we have a first alert weather day. Chance for storms tonight too, as I mentioned, but severe chances are a little lower. We're in the 70s today and tomorrow, but once that front moves through here Friday morning, highs are only in the 50s. We'll also be in the 50s on Saturday, but with full sunshine, 65 on Sunday.
Okay, check out this shot of the bridge there. The bridge of many names. It is the M Bridge. It's the I-40 bridge. It's the Hernando de Soto Bridge. It is also referred to as the new bridge. But more importantly, check out the skies and the conditions from our live camera there in downtown Memphis. Very dark and gloomy. Meteorologist Brittany Bryant's been talking about what we can expect for the next couple of days. In fact, she's been talking about 2 rounds of severe weather beginning later this afternoon and this evening. You'll be hearing from her momentarily. So I want to get to moms and babies. They're at the center of another hot button issue in Mississippi. The Mississippi House Medicaid Committee passed Senate Bill 2212 with no changes in a meeting yesterday morning. We want to help you understand what's at stake when it comes to postpartum Medicaid coverage. Courtney Ann Jackson from our sister station WLBT shows you there's one leader left that supporters are hoping to sway.
Maybe you're wondering why this issue of postpartum Medicaid matters.
Medicaid covers actually 65% of all births in Mississippi. So even if you don't have Medicaid or did not have Medicaid for your pregnancy, it is highly likely that you know someone who does.
Earlier this month, the governor said,
the postpartum Medicaid expansion, what I have said in the past and I will continue to say today, is that the data is incomplete at best.
But through social media posts 2 days before the legislative deadline to move the bill out of committee, the governor put out his endorsement, saying in a post-Dobbs world, we may even have to be willing to do things that make us philosophically uncomfortable, and adding a call for the legislature to pass the bill, extending the coverage to 12 months, and he would sign it. Faith leaders with Working Together Mississippi are trying to appeal to the remaining holdout in the legislative leadership.
Saying to the Speaker of the House, join us. And let's do this because it's the right thing to do for Mississippi, because we value and we love our mothers and our children.
At this time when women's choices and self-determination is being prescribed, it is all the more important that this essential postpartum health care be extended.
House Minority Leader Representative Robert Johnson is glad to see the governor's change of course, but
the truth is the governor can do it himself. He's essentially the head of Medicaid. He appoints the chairman of Medicaid. Medicaid can initiate this process right now. All the governor has to say is do it. He can do it with a stroke of a pen.
The House Medicaid Committee would need to pass Senate Bill 2212 out by Tuesday to keep it in play.
Thank you, Speaker.
Okay, roads are getting more dangerous in the U.S. for pedestrians. This is according to the Governor's Highway Safety Association. 3,400 pedestrians killed in the first half of last year. It's an average of 19 deaths each and every day. The association encouraging drivers to watch out for people that are not only walking but also biking, and remember to share the road. Elliptical machines, treadmills, not getting a lot of love in the gym these days. Strength training or weight resistance training, it's all the rage now. Growth of high-intensity gyms like CrossFit and more women brushing off stereotypes that bodybuilding is for men. All the reasons why some are flocking to the gym. High demand helps gyms recover from the pandemic era blow. Okay, according to a bill approved by the Tennessee House Committee, the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation would be required to test all rape kits within 30 days. It currently takes an average of 34 weeks to test rape kits in Tennessee. This bill was inspired by the tragic death of Memphis mother of 2 and beloved teacher Eliza Fletcher. She was murdered while on a run back in September. Later discovered that the man arrested and charged with the murder, Cleotha Henderson, had been linked to a rape case a year earlier, but that rape test kit hadn't even been tested at the time of Fletcher's death. House Bill 1125, now law in Mississippi, banning gender-affirming care for minors. It was signed by Governor Tate Reeves. Advocates pushed back on this and the decision from the governor. Governor Reeves says those treatments are experimental and harmful to minors.
I'm angry at the governor and lawmakers for making decisions they shouldn't. The governor, like those who wrote this bill, has no ounce of medical training and has no business dictating what families should be able to discuss and do with the doctors and their kids.
This is truly scary stuff. This being pushed upon our kids, and yes, their loving parents. They are being taken advantage of. Also, some can push their warped view on gender or appear to be woke for their friends.
And the law bans minors from receiving medication or gender assignment surgeries. Family and friends continue to mourn the loss of 2 children and 2 adults killed in a house fire yesterday morning. We brought that coverage to you all morning long here at Action News 5. The cause, according to firefighters, they say an unattended space heater. Action News 5's Walter Murphy has more on what happened and the family involved.
I'll always remember is when they came in after school, what's to eat.
Frank Lassiter remembering Aiden and Dalton Reyes, the 2 young boys who were killed in a house fire on Parr Avenue in Fraser early Tuesday morning.
Hopefully they didn't feel anything at all. You know, like I said, just the smoke took them. So hopefully they were just overcome by the smoke and didn't feel the fire.
The Memphis Fire Department says the fire started by an unattended space heater in a back bedroom of the home. Frank told me that's where the boys' grandfather, Kevin, slept. He says the 2 boys were asleep with their mom, Sam. Both Sam and Kevin were also killed in the fire. The boys' father, Mauricio, is the only member of the Reyes family who was able to be rescued by firefighters.
He tried to go back in, but the house was just so taken up with smoke, they couldn't see.
The father was taken to Regional 1 Medical Center, where he remains in critical condition.
He fights for his life, y'all. Please pray for him, please, because I got a 10-year-old, and I couldn't even imagine me going through that.
Viable to place a new school, so we will immediately start the process of viable to place a new school. So we will immediately start the process of viable to place a new school. So we will immediately start the process of
Family, friends, and colleagues of Officer Joffrey Redd said goodbye to a man of service to the Lord and to his community.
In his memory, we will continue to honor his service as guardians of this city.
Redd has always led a life of service, starting after he graduated high school in Tupelo, Mississippi, by joining the U.S. Marines.
We have Jeffrey Redd reporting to duty up in heaven to guard the gates, the pearly gates in heaven, because that's what Marines do.
In 2008, he became a Memphis police officer.
We will serve to protect the rights of freedom.
During his 15 years at MPD, he served at several different precincts, but his service to our country and our community could never overshadow the love he had for God and his family.
Officer Red did not just want to be known as a preacher. He wanted to be known as a Christian.
Officer Red was an ordained minister and became a Sunday school teacher at Greater Community Temple Kojic in 2020, where he met the love of his life, Kimberly. Even knowing his servant heart, his family says they were never prepared to lose him so soon.
I just want to hold on to his good memories. I love him. That's my only brother.
A servant that dedicated his life to his community in faith.
Until we meet again, my prayer to you is, may the blessings of the Lord be upon you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Good morning, everyone. Andrew Douglas in the Action News 5 digital desk. The new reality of remote working. It has really swung the power back to the employee, making it a crucial time for organizations to develop their internal talent. But in this current fluctuating labor market, talent retention for employers and mobility for workers remain a challenge. Let's bring in Leo Gonsalves. He is someone that works at Workforce Solutions, a vice president of Workforce Solutions, University of Phoenix. Leo, good morning. Let's talk about talent mobility and why it is so important.
Good morning. Thank you for having me today. Talent mobility refers to the ability of the workforce to unlock and access new opportunities, skills, and positions. The University of Phoenix and Executive Networks conducted recently research with 600 HR leaders and knowledge workers. And what we found out is that developing a reliable pool of internal candidates leads to an increased level of engagement, satisfaction, and retention with the existing employees. In fact, 2/3 of the employees that were interviewed in this survey indicated that they would be more likely to stay with the current employer long-term only if they had more access to career development opportunities within their current employer. The research also highlighted a gap in the understanding. Employees are not aware of the opportunities that companies are making available to those employees.
You know, I totally get that. One of the things that we see in our industry is that people want professional development. And if you can give them professional development, they'll be more apt to stay. What resources are available to support talent development, Leo?
Yeah, technology developments have enabled the emergence of skill-centric digital talent marketplaces that allow employers to unlock the full potential of their workforce. It resolves that gap in understanding between employers and employees that I just referenced. These platforms, think of them as like dating apps of internal jobs. They allow employers to constantly scan for the qualified employees based on the skills and preferences of those employees.
It's interesting, and I know that the platform is beneficial to workers. Can you tell us how?
Yeah, for employees, it's all about increasing access and agency. This type of platform gives the employee now an opportunity to signal to the employer the skills they have, but also learn new things and enhance their careers with mentors on projects where they currently work. 2 companies that we looked at in our study saw key benefits for the employees for finding mentors, as well as an increase in the number of new assignments that go to female applicants.
So let me ask you this, Leo. The workforce is changing. It's ever changing. Employees and employers with new people coming in each and every day, new people leaving. How do you promote a strong and engaged workforce these days?
Yeah, I think the adoption of a platform can help and can only be fully unlocked its potential, though, if it's backed by major efforts to shift the culture of the organization. That requires a consistent push by leadership to change throughout the organization, creating the incentives for the employees to participate in this process. It ultimately requires a changing mindset where the individual talent of the organization is recognized as a company asset.
Okay, and Leo, you know, we've touched on a number of different topics here. Where can people get more information?
They can go to phoenix.edu/workforce solutions and find more.
Okay, Leo Gonsalves, VP of Workforce Solutions, University of Phoenix. Appreciate the conversation this morning, Leo. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Check out the cover of the latest edition of the Memphis Flyer on newsstands right now. You can go to memphisflyer.com, and there it is. Slice, slice, baby. Yes, we are talking about pizza, and we have Sam Chichi on the line with us on the Action News 5 digital desk. Sam, you're just a regular here. You're always on and writing some articles that we are so interested in. How you doing this morning?
Pretty good. You know, it's always exciting to talk about pizza. And yeah, it does feel like I'm becoming a Memphis Flyer magazine regular on here. Thanks again for having me.
You got it. You got it. Memphis Flyer, Memphis Magazine. It doesn't matter. You're here and you're writing some great pieces. So I'm one of those that can eat pizza all the time. I mean, I love pizza. I love the different kinds and different slices, different toppings, that sort of thing. Tell me about what viewers, or rather readers, can expect with this article in the Memphis Flyer.
Well, first of all, you know, just kind of looking at our cover image and everything, pretty clear we just kind of wanted to have fun with this one. You know, the food things give us an opportunity to cut loose and mix it up from some of the more hard news articles we got. So when we were talking about options, we hadn't done pizza since, I believe, 2019. So we just decided to get together and send our writing team out around the city and kind of see which pizza places they wanted to try. You know, it's a pretty good list we got on here. It's a mix of, you know, some pretty popular places and then some other unknown spots, you know. So I don't want to say it's a definitive guide to pizza around Memphis, but we were just hoping to have a, you know, kind of a fun way to share our love for pizza and hopefully show some new spots to readers too, in case they had missed some of these places.
Yeah. So during the travels and during this piece, did you find that there were certain categories of pizza? I mean, most people know, you know, Chicago-style pizza is kind of a deep dish. You have some other pizzas out there, like, for example, Memphis Pizza Cafe to me is, you know, very thin-crusted type of pizza. Are there certain categories like that you just kind of noticed during this piece?
I think so, a little bit. There are a couple places that, you know, really have a distinct style. Like you said, Memphis Pizza Cafe, they specialize in those thin crusts. You've got a new place called Izzy and Adams down Summer, which, you know, specializes in Chicago-style pizza, deep dish, and a bunch of cool things like that. I believe they just opened up a couple months ago, but they're very good. My coworker, Michael Donahue, talks them up very highly. But beyond that, you know, I think I struggled to put some of these places into one distinct category. They've kind of all got their own little Americanized twist on it. You know, if I were gallivanting through Europe, we'd have more neat categorizations for, you know, thin crust, classic style, Neapolitan. You know, while I'm thinking about it, I do want to point out the Thud Butt from Little Betty at Wiseacre. They do have a distinct New Haven style pizza. So that's another thing to look out for. It's got a little bit of a thinner crust, a little chewier, kind of charred a little bit. It kind of hews close to the classic Neapolitan style. But, you know, other than looking at a few examples, I do think it's a pretty broad spectrum here. You know, we got a lot of people trying different things and really putting their own stamp on the pizza game. So it's pretty exciting, you know. You can do some research if you do want a specific style, but really you can just hop around town and, you know, try something new, get something amazing. I mean, it's pizza. Everybody loves pizza. None of these places are going to let you down.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it's really nice to kind of just check it out and kind of see which one offers what, because as you mentioned, there's so many different styles. You know, you got the Neapolitan, you got the thin crust, you got the deep dish, and you know, it almost seems like, you know, there are so many different styles of pizza, and then there's this Detroit style that's really kind of gaining a lot of fervor out there. But it's so nice to see just people getting more creative in the pizza realm. Anything else you want to mention with regards to this article about the love of pizza in the Memphis area?
It's really interesting. We get a lot of press releases which kind of aggregate different data about almost anything. And one landed in our inbox on Tuesday, I believe, after we'd finished writing this article, that was saying, I think Memphis was one of the worst pizza cities in the country. And that kind of surprised me because, I've been here over a decade and I've tried a lot of really, really cool places, a lot of people who are really passionate about their craft. I don't know how this organization came to that conclusion, but I just have to say I completely disagree. We have a lot of great places, and there are some really good places that unfortunately didn't make this list, like Aldo's, High Point, Coletta's, and there are so many more that we wish we could have included. So I do just want to reiterate that there are a lot of really, really good pizza spots here, and whether you want something fancier, just a little bar snack to help you down some beers, we've got you covered.
Yes. And you know what we call those people that say stuff like that? The worst city in the country when it comes to pizza? One word: hater. That's what we call them. They're haters.
You're right. Ignore them.
Because I'm with you. 100% disagree with that person's analysis. It really is like every different community has several options. I can think of Chow Baby. That's another place in Collierville that has Neapolitan pizza that is just incredible. And it goes on and on. You can go to Bartlett. You can go to different parts of Memphis, as you mentioned. Summer Avenue's got its own style of pizza and that sort of thing. So, Sam, really appreciate it. Anything else before we let you go?
I think that covers it. Just go out and grab a slice and pick up a copy of the flyer.
There it is, the copy of the Memphis Flyer, Slice Baby, an analysis of some of the great pizza that we have in Memphis and across the Mid-South. Sam Chichi, we appreciate it as always. Thanks very much.
All right. Thanks, Andrew.
Okay, this month marks the 100th anniversary of the Equal Rights Amendment. However, now, a century after the fight for equal rights, the amendment has not been enshrined in the Constitution, and it's Women's History Month. It kicks off today. ERA Coalition President CEO Zakiya Thomas is joining us now on the digital desk to discuss the history of the Equal Rights Amendment and why we need to protect those rights. Zakiya, good morning. How are you?
I'm doing very well, thanks.
So let's review, what is the Equal Rights Amendment?
The Equal Rights Amendment is an amendment to the U.S. Constitution that would protect against discrimination on the basis of sex. So it would empower Congress to create laws that protect against discrimination. It would give the courts tools to determine whether or not laws are in violation of rights based on sex. And it would give all of us protection, a stronger level of protection against discrimination in our legal system.
So why is it not in the Constitution right now? Why is there not an amendment?
So the amendment was first introduced in Congress 100 years ago. It was passed by both houses of Congress in a bicameral effort, a bipartisan effort about 50 years ago. And in 2020, it was ratified by the final state needed to be added to the Constitution. So it's met every requirement needed to be added to the Constitution. Right now, we just need it to be published. And so we're calling on Congress to affirm that the Equal Rights Amendment is valid and it's part of our Constitution and it's the law of the land.
So that published, what does that mean exactly? Does it need to be published on a website? Does it need to go to all 50 states? Does it have to be published by Congress?
So right now, it just needs to be published by the archivist. So the archivist is the person responsible for adding constitutional amendments to the Constitution. In the 70s, there was an arbitrary deadline put on the Equal Rights Amendment that Congress put there to say, or arbitrary time limit in Congress as to when the states needed to ratify the amendment. Since Congress can put a timeline on an amendment, it can also take a timeline off the amendment, which is why we're calling on Congress to do just that, to affirm that the Equal Rights Amendment is part of our Constitution and that it is the law.
Okay, and what do we understand when it comes to Americans' views about the Equal Rights Amendment?
It's not surprising that 78% of the country thinks that we should have an equal rights amendment, that men and women should be treated equally and not discriminated against on the basis of sex. And just understand that the equal rights amendment is for everyone. Some like to say it's just a woman's issue. It's really for everyone. Think about a world in which men and women are paid equally for doing the same work, where LGBTQ plus individuals are protected against discrimination based on who they are, and where all of us are treated equally under the law. That's the promise of the Equal Rights Amendment, and that's why we need it so much, so imperative for us to have it enshrined in our law today.
Where can we go to get some more information? Our viewers are watching right now. There's thousands watching. Where can they get more information on this?
You can join us in this movement by visiting eracoalition.org, follow us on social media, and be a part of the voice of America today, calling on Congress to enshrine the Equal Rights Amendment in our Constitution.
Okay, ERA Coalition President, CEO Zakiya Thomas, we appreciate your time and thanks for the info.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, good morning. We have a 2 out of 5 for severe weather risk for most of our area. Strong winds and some hail possible with thunderstorms tonight. Most of your day, you're not going to have to deal with any rain. Might squeeze out a stray shower this afternoon, but most of this doesn't start to move in until after 6 o'clock tonight. By that point, you have some rain in eastern Arkansas, a few showers in North Mississippi. Might start to see a little bit of rain in downtown Memphis. By 9 o'clock tonight, we have a widespread rain here across the Mid-South. Some downpours over towards Harrisburg and Memphis and to spots like Tunica, Oxford seeing some heavy rain as well. And those thunderstorms are with us through around 1 a.m., especially for northeast Mississippi. Memphis will be drying out by that point, and then we'll dry out for a few hours tonight, but more storms and heavy rain in the forecast tomorrow. The bullseye for that severe weather is actually off to our southwest, where you see that red. That's a 4 out of 5. But here at home, we're not being spared either. We have a 3 out of 5 for our severe weather risk for North Mississippi and eastern Arkansas and a portion of Shelby County. That is why we made tomorrow a first alert weather day. So ingredients with us for damaging winds and hail, but also a very low threat for tornadoes, which means most of us don't see tornadoes, but there's still that potential there. Also some heavy rain in the forecast, high chance for that. So some flash flooding will be possible tonight and also tomorrow. Let's look at timing. 6 a.m. tomorrow, some showers, especially for North Mississippi. So you'll have that chance for rain as we go throughout the day tomorrow. You'll have some showers here all the way through 5 o'clock. Then it looks like we'll dry out for a few hours. Now, will that be enough for us to recover from that rain earlier in the day? It's hard to say. I'm hoping that's what happens, so that decreases our instability. But that line of strong to severe storms pushes in around 1 o'clock in the morning. This is 1:30 overnight Thursday into early Friday. And that along this line from Tunica into Clarksdale is where we could see some of those severe storms and possibly a spin-up tornado and damaging wind gusts. At 5 a.m., strong winds and heavy rain continues to push through North Mississippi and West Tennessee. So those wind gusts this afternoon will be around 20 miles per hour. You'll see them kick up tonight. This is 9 o'clock when that line moves through, maybe to 30 to 40 miles per hour for spots like Marks and Batesville. And then tomorrow will be windy as well, 20 mile per hour gusts in the afternoon. But then by 2 a.m., 40 to 50 miles per hour for those wind gusts, and you'll still have 40 to 50 mile per hour winds all the way through noon on Friday at the very least. As I mentioned, we also are going to be watching that chance for some flooding, a flood watch in effect from 3 p.m. today all the way through 6 o'clock on Friday. Since we have that threat for severe weather tomorrow, we have a first alert weather day. Chance for storms tonight too, as I mentioned, but severe chances are a little lower. We're in the 70s today and tomorrow, but once that front moves through here Friday morning, highs are only in the 50s. We'll also be in the 50s on Saturday, but with full sunshine, 65 on Sunday.
Okay, each and every month we like to look back on various trends, what's happening in various facets of our lives, society, entertainment, sports, culture, that sort of thing. And to do that, we always bring in a Google expert to really kind of give us an idea of what people are searching for during any given month or perhaps the Super Bowl. We have right now Elizabeth Howard, a Google Trends expert with us, joining us now on the digital desk. Elizabeth, how are you? Good morning.
Good morning, Andrew. Thanks so much for having me.
Appreciate you being here. So I'm looking at some of these trends here, and I would think, we talked immediately after the Super Bowl, some of the different trends people were searching for, and it looks like when it comes to entertainment, of course, Rihanna and some other Super Bowl trends were at the top of the charts.
Yes, absolutely. Entertainment was a huge category this month. Rihanna stole the show, the Super Bowl. So sorry for the two football teams who played, but Rihanna was the top search. And in specifically Tennessee, we saw Stay as the top search song during the Super Bowl for Rihanna. And we also saw her partner A$AP Rocky was the top celebrity search during the Super Bowl. So that was a unique search that we were surprised to see as well.
Yeah, and you know, I had a meme that I posted afterwards, and it was making fun of people kind of looking at the screen saying, is Rihanna pregnant? And it turns out that's one of the search items, Rihanna pregnant or not.
Yes, it is. It was the most searched item as soon as she started her Super Bowl performance, and she did confirm her second pregnancy. And so her second pregnancy was the most searched topic the day after the Super Bowl as well. So she had people talking for quite a few days.
No question, Elizabeth. Something else, I'm looking at the list here. A couple things that kind of stood out to me, and it may be something I've missed. The science aspects, Colorado River was the highest search in the science category for the month of February. And then the UFOs, when it comes to odd news, UFOs really searched in the month of February. Bring us up to date. Where are these coming from?
Sure. So Colorado River is experiencing a 2-decade-long drought, and people are really concerned about their water supply. So we saw a lot of searches around where does the Colorado River start? Where does it end? What states does it touch? Is it drying out? What does the water supply look like? And so we saw people concerned about that. But then on the other side of science, we also saw unidentified foreign objects pop up in our search trends as well. And the top search in that category is what is in the sky. So people were very interested in what's flying around in the sky. We saw people search for aliens and are aliens real? And one of the unique searches in Tennessee is all across the United States, every state was searching for the movie Alien except Tennessee, who was searching for the movie Predator. So everyone in Tennessee really beat out the rest of the United States searching for the Predator movie.
That's interesting. I love seeing weird stuff like that. And I guess the Chinese balloon issue was one of the reasons that probably people started searching for UFOs and different things out in the sky. NBA All-Star Weekend, I see that was a big search with LeBron James getting the scoring record too.
Yes, absolutely. And we saw all across the United States people searching for Team LeBron versus Team Giannis. And in Tennessee, big Team LeBron fan. So, and pretty much I will say, no offense to Team Giannis, but I think most of the United States was Team LeBron during that weekend.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. Of course, we had two Memphis Grizzlies playing in the All-Star game this year, so that was, I know a lot of people, at least in the Memphis area, certainly watched that. What else can you tell us about it? I see when it came to food, National Pizza Day topped the charts, huh?
Yes, February 9th, one of the greatest holidays, National Pizza Day. And of course, you know, the great debate going around is New York style or Chicago style. And in Tennessee, definitely New York style. We actually saw quite a divide amongst the United States. The lower half of the United States was very much a New York style pizza people. And then the northern half was Chicago style. So really, however you celebrated, you can't go wrong there, though.
You know, it's interesting, you know, Valentine's Day, of course, search there. And on Valentine's Day, you guys have it in various subcategories like searches for Galentine's Day, self-love, single awareness day. And then the top, is it weird to alone? Is it weird to go to a bar alone, a concert alone, restaurant, movie? That's
That's
weird to me, or odd, or I don't know. Is it?
Well, this year we did see a lot of searches that moved out of just the romantic Valentine's Day searches. So we did see, what are some Galentine's cocktails to make? Is it weird to go to dinner alone? Is it weird to go to a movie theater alone? But one of the most interesting things that I thought was, for a romantic Valentine's Day date, is people were searching for cities to escape to for the weekend. And Orlando was the top most searched city in Tennessee. And if you maybe didn't go to Orlando but wanted to stay in Tennessee, a spa retreat was the top date idea for those hanging around the state for Valentine's Day.
Interesting. I always love breaking it down, these Google Trend searches. Tell us, Elizabeth, where people can find it on their own.
Sure. Anyone can access these trends at google.com/trends, and you can search by specific categories, specific locations, a specific time of day. So I really encourage anyone to check it out. You will be very surprised at the things that pop up.
You can go down a rabbit hole and really be like totally fascinated on like what people are searching. Elizabeth Howard, really appreciate the time this morning. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Andrew Douglas in the Action News 5 digital desk. I want to tell you about Camp Say. It is a free 2-day performing arts camp for young people who stutter. It is a place where every young person is celebrated for who they are and given as much time as they need to express themselves fully. And these are some of the pictures from the camp in years past. I want to bring in Jennifer McGrath, Vice President of Education and Community Engagement at the Orpheum Theater Group, to talk more about Camp Say. Jennifer, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing very well, thanks. Happy to be here.
I'm glad you're with us. So tell us about Camp Say.
Well, like you said, Camp Say is a program that we've been running here in Memphis since 2018 at the Orpheum, and we work in partnership with an organization called SAY, the Stuttering Association for the Young, based out of New York City. And we host this, as you described, this 2-day free mini camp for young people who stutter, where they are given as much time as they need to speak and express themselves fully through all sorts of creative practices, and mostly around community building. Essentially, what we're saying is that we think you speak beautifully exactly as you speak, and we want to hold time and space for you to come together with other young people who also stutter, and we want to hear what you have to say and how you learn to express yourself.
How long has it been going on, and what has been the response when you guys have after the camp?
Yeah, so, well, the organization SAY in New York City has been around since 2001, believe it or not. And we began this program, this satellite program here in Memphis in 2018. So I actually just checked that this spring will be our 9th session of Camp Say. And it's super exciting because, to answer your question, a lot of the young people that are coming to this program maybe have never met another young person who stutters. Maybe they feel like they are completely alone, like they're the only one, that they're hesitant or nervous to speak up, right? And to answer your question, in just 2 short days, they've suddenly built and developed this whole community of people that are just like them. They've made new friends, they've had a ton of fun, and they've been able to express themselves and share all the incredible gifts that are inside of all of them just by holding a little bit of extra time for them to speak. So I think what's really incredible is that in 48 hours, we see a tremendous journey, a tremendous boost in confidence, a tremendous networking that develops. And we also hold space for the parents and caregivers of the young people to come together and talk about what it means to be raising a young person who stutters and what the effects of that are on the young person, on the family. So really, really building a network of people and just seeing so many people make so much progress and grow so much in such a short time, while also having a lot of fun.
So it's at the Halloran Center there from March 18th and 19th. Tell us, is this a classroom setting? We've seen some of the B-roll. It looks like some of the video there. It looks like they're doing all kinds of things, moving around. Take us through a day in the life of this camp.
Sure, sure. Well, our camp is 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Saturday and Sunday, and breakfast and lunch are provided. And I share that only because we sort of ease the campers in, right? You have the beauty of having the camp have been here for so long is that now we have a lot of returning campers that come back year after year, session after session, that know exactly what to expect. And so they come in ready to go. But we also have a lot of new people coming into this space. And like I said, maybe they're a little bit nervous, a little bit timid. So we like to ease in with the meal, just kind of get everybody settled in the space. And then essentially we spend a lot of time getting to know one another, and also really living into the premise, the value that everyone gets as much time as they need to speak, whether that is 2 seconds, 2 minutes, or 2 hours. We are going to hold space for you. This is an environment that is completely free of any kind of ridicule or bullying. It's all positive, uplifting, affirming time and space. And so we really just spend a lot of time getting to know one another so that the young people can learn about other people who stutter, and also just helping them to feel comfortable speaking with their stutter. We play a lot of fun games, which is always a really great time. We have amazing food at lunch, and then we spend the afternoons primarily creating things. And we believe that the young people should get to create whatever they want. So they're writing poems, they're creating dances, some of them write songs, they do animation and drawing, they're creating skits and scenes, you name it, creative writing, drawing, you name it. They are developing creative means to express their thoughts and ideas. Then on the second day, we do a little bit more team building, a little bit more games and fun, and of course those delicious meals. And then we invite anyone who wishes to share some of the creative things that they've made for their friends and family. So any parents, caregivers, etc., that want to come and observe. Nobody is forced to share anything because, of course, we know that's a pretty big ask, right, to get up on stage and share something that you've created. But I'm also really proud to say that almost every single time we've got almost every young person up there sharing a little bit about what they made and letting their voice be heard. And that's exactly what we're trying to do, is make space for that.
So, and it's important to mention that this is a free camp for anyone. And I'm curious, do people come back every year? Do you see some of the same people? And how many people do we see? And what are the ages that we typically see at this camp?
Absolutely. So Camp Say serves young people who stutter ages 8 to 18. It is completely free. One of the things that we've been doing at the Orpheum for a long time now is really working to create more access to our quality programs. And so we don't want cost to be a barrier. If you are a young person who stutters and you want to participate in this camp, we want to make sure that it is accessible to you. So we're really proud of that and really thrilled to be able to offer it free to the families that need it. And in terms of people coming back, yes, we have young people that have been coming since the very first year. It's amazing to watch them grow, both physically from small people to now most of them are taller than me, to also just the way they grow in their journey of expressing themselves, of developing friendships. And I think, many of these young people, like I said, where they are going to school, and we have students coming from all over the tri-state area. We even have students coming from as far as Florida and St. Louis, because they really need this resource and this program. And so a lot of the kids that are returning get so excited to come to camp and see their friends and reconnect with their community, because maybe where they go to school, maybe they're the only person who stutters, or maybe their teacher is not giving them the time they need, right? Because the only difference between a person who stutters and anybody else is that it just takes them a little bit more time to say what they want to say. And so I think for returners coming back, you just see them walk in the door and go, oh, this is a moment where I can take my time and I can express myself and I can be seen. So yes, we absolutely have returners that have been coming since the beginning, which is always fun. And then of course we love meeting new people. So if you've never been before, but you stutter, we definitely want you to come and join us. You'll make so many friends, and I promise you it's a good time.
Okay, so let's talk about how people can sign up, what they need to do, and how many people do you typically have every year?
Sure. It ranges from year to year. I would say we're usually in the range of 20 to 30 young people per session. We do try to find that balance of making sure that anybody that wants to be a part of the program can be a part of it, but also making sure that there's a high camper to staff ratio, right? So that everyone can get the attention that they need and deserve while they're at camp, and really connect with other young people. So we're usually in the 20 to 30 people range, again, ages 8 to 18. And to register, registration is open now. So you can go online to the Orpheum website. That's orpheum-memphis.com. And you can click on the Learn and Engage tab, and it'll direct you right there to Camp Say across the USA Memphis. There's a register button. You just have to answer a couple of questions, fill out some information. And then, of course, someone from our team will follow up with you with all of the details. Registration, like I said, is open now and closes on March 10th, so that we have time to turn around and prepare for the camp, which is actually the following weekend. So if you or a young person you know, we also reach out a lot to teachers, educators, speech language pathologists, right? If you know someone who stutters that can benefit from this program, please send them our way. We'd really love to have them at Camp Say.
All right, Jennifer McGrath, the Vice President of Education Community Engagement for the Orpheum Theater Group. Appreciate all that you guys do, certainly, and this camp sounds absolutely fantastic, and appreciate you letting us know about it and getting the word out there for everybody. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Okay, 1 out of 10 babies in the U.S. will be born premature, putting them at higher risk for being born with a hole in their heart. Now, many times those holes close by themselves, but there are some babies that need open heart surgery. I want to show you now in this Best Life report a new device that allows doctors to treat the tiniest patients with far less risk.
Oh, is that the poo-poo face? Or are you yawning?
Just seeing this sweet face is a miracle to Mom Tiffany Stewart.
He could fit in the palm of your hand. He was 1 pound, 10 ounces at birth.
Jaden was born 17 weeks premature.
He did come out not breathing on his own.
Jaden had a large hole between the 2 blood vessels leading from his heart called PDA. It can cause a lifetime of respiratory problems.
He had a blood vessel in his chest that ordinarily closes after you're born, but when you're born prematurely, sometimes it doesn't close. And that blood vessel causes extra blood flow to go through your lungs, which makes it hard to get off of respiratory support.
Pediatric cardiologist Robert English says it's normal to treat bigger babies with this problem, but not one this tiny.
Jaden was really small. He was the smallest baby we've ever done here.
Instead of major surgery, a new device called the Piccolo allowed Dr. English to use a catheter inserted through Jaden's groin to guide a wire mesh device through the vessels to close the opening.
It's just like a plug, so it goes into the vessel and kind of plugs the vessel up.
The plug can be smaller than a pea, and there's no need to remove it.
It will stay in forever. It'll basically become a part of him, and his blood vessel will sort of grow into it and kind of fix it into place there.
After 6 months in the NICU, Jaden is finally where he belongs.
Just having him home in our own space, it just meant everything to us. Jaden is perfect. He's so sweet. He's such a sweet baby. Hi, buddy.
By avoiding a major surgery, babies are at a less risk of infection and can expect a quicker discharge out of the hospital and a lifetime of healthier lungs. With ways to live your best life, I'm Andrew Douglas, Action News 5. I don't know about that Andrew Douglas guy. He kind of scares me, but you know who doesn't scare me in the morning? It's meteorologist Brittany Bryant. She is awesome. I love working with Brittany, and even when she forecasts bad weather, she makes it fun. But it looks like, Brittany, these next 2 rounds, both tonight and then tomorrow, it could get dicey around here. Is that right?
Yeah, we have a chance for severe weather, like you said, tonight and tomorrow. So we're tracking that threat for severe weather first moving through this evening, and then there's a cold front that'll be pushing through here tomorrow, and that one could bring an even higher chance for severe weather. So I'm going to walk you through today first, and then we'll get more into detail about tomorrow. So as far as today's chance goes, we have a 2 out of 5 for that severe weather risk. Strong winds and hail. I'm not tracking a chance for tornadoes for that severe weather risk today, but certainly something that we're monitoring for this here as the system moves through the Mid-South. It's definitely going to bring us that chance for a few strong to severe thunderstorms, unfortunately. So First Alert Futurecast has been showing the chance for some heavy rain and, as I mentioned, a few thunderstorms a little bit later on tonight. So you'll really start to see some of those stronger storms ramping up probably around 6 o'clock this evening. You'll see some of that heavy rain. There it is in eastern Arkansas and in West Tennessee up towards Dyersburg. We'll also start to see a few light showers in Memphis by 6 o'clock. But that means that with temperatures in the 70s, you'll actually have a pretty nice day since we won't see any of this rain until later on tonight. So I can't completely rule out a stray shower. I still am going to keep a 20% chance in there. But again, after 6 o'clock is when most of us start to see rain. And then look at this, by 8 o'clock tonight, it is pouring in Memphis and Germantown. Look at all this heavy rain where you see those oranges and those purples in areas like Tunica and going into Clarksdale and Helena. Also in Shelby County, we have some of that really heavy rain pushing through here. So between around 8 o'clock and midnight, heavy rain and thunderstorms continuing to push through the Mid-South. This is 1 a.m., still some downpours in here. After we get past around midnight, 1 o'clock, though, I'm no longer expecting any severe weather, although I do think that we'll still see showers as we go through early tomorrow morning. You won't see any severe weather after we get past around midnight. But by tomorrow afternoon, this is 3 o'clock on Thursday, you get more of those storms developing over towards Tunica, going into DeSoto County, also in spots like Shelby County, we could see storms. So anytime in the afternoon and evening tomorrow, our instability is high enough for us to see severe weather. We may dry out for a few hours, maybe between 4 o'clock and 6 o'clock, at least in some areas, but then more storms arrive around 10 o'clock at night, and 10 o'clock going through early Friday morning, you'll have thunderstorms rolling through the Mid-South. So unfortunately, Thursday night, that's mostly going to impact you while you're sleeping. And tomorrow night is when we could have a threat for tornadoes as well. So I have multiple ways to get that weather information, guys. You want to have a weather radio, and if you don't have that, then have this sound turned on your phone. If you have our First Alert Weather app, if you have it downloaded, as long as you have gone into your settings and turned all of the alerts on, and you can cater this too. So say you don't want any winter warnings, you only want severe thunderstorm warnings, or you only want tornado warnings, that those alerts turned on for those, then you have that opportunity on our app. Just go to the settings, as I mentioned, in the app, and then you can turn off warnings or alerts on and off depending on what you want. But at least for tomorrow, I would have the severe thunderstorm warnings and tornado warning alerts turned on. So when those are issued, that gets sent to your phone. And as long as you have the sound on your phone, that should wake you up to where you can get that information. So heavy rain potential is high. And then also a medium threat for damaging winds, low threat for hail and tornadoes. So the chances for hail and tornadoes on Thursday is low, but it only takes one tornado to cause some damage and to be really dangerous, obviously. So even one tornado is something that we're still concerned with, even though I think most of us are not going to see those tornadoes. But Andrew, we need everyone to be on high alert tonight for those storms, but especially tomorrow when we have that system moving through on Thursday afternoon and evening.
You know, it sounds like it because it's March, and March, April, May. Isn't that like the most severe weather season throughout the entire year? I mean, I think I remember hearing that, right?
Yeah, for here, April and May is really when things start ramping up. But to be honest, now over the past few years, we have seen more and more severe weather outside of that time. So you're starting to see severe thunderstorms and tornadoes in January, February, even into March. So we really honestly here in the Mid-South, we don't really ever have a time when we just have no severe weather. It seems like every month out of the year, we have some sort of threat for severe storms where you have to be on high alert. And again, we have all those threats available. And the winds for Thursday night are going to start kicking up over 30 miles per hour starting around 10 o'clock. And then look, by 3 o'clock in the morning, 40 to 50 mile per hour winds will be possible. And we'll keep those strong winds in place through early Friday. So this is just, I want to give you an example that this isn't even considered severe, but 40+ mile per hour winds still can cause damage and cause power outages. So even when you don't even have severe thunderstorms rolling through, when you have this type of setup, you still have to be on high alert for those power outages and for tree limbs coming down and things like that, Andrew. So Thursday and early Friday, it looks like we could definitely have some issues with these winds.
Got one more question here before we let you go, Brittany. Appreciate the in-depth analysis. For some reason, I feel like this season we've seen really strong winds, more so than previous years, and you're our resident scientist. Is that in fact the case, or am I just imagining things?
It does seem like that recently. I mean, I don't have any of that specific data to say. We don't really, as far as our climate reports go, we don't really save the wind gust data necessarily. But it definitely does seem like the winds have been more of a problem recently. And, you know, winds are just the atmosphere trying to balance itself out. That's all that it is for the atmosphere. It's all that those winds really are there for, trying to make that balance. So especially when you have really warm days like what we've had for the past month. February's been a very warm month for us. Now that we are March 1st, I'll be interested to see that full data for the month of February to see where we landed, but definitely one of the warmer months that we've had. And so with us having that warm weather, the atmosphere, obviously the earth isn't used to that. So it's trying to balance out that warmth that we've had. So when you get these weather systems rolling through, those are trying to bring in, those cold fronts trying to bring in cold air. And that causes those winds to kick up to try to reach that balance and bring us back to where we're supposed to be for February and now into the start of March, if that makes sense.
Well, Brittany, I'd be very interested in hearing all about that data when it comes in from the month of February, because it felt like February was everything. I mean, we had all kinds of stuff happening.
Yes. We'll have to come back. I'll have to come back to the digital desk and we'll talk about that past month, because it was interesting.
And no question about it, putting it nicely. Brittany Bryant, we really appreciate you, not only in the mornings every weekday, but also when you come on the digital desk. Thanks very much.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. So with that, and with severe weather season right around the corner, for now, as you heard from Brittany, it's here. It's so important to know what to do to keep you and your family safe if a storm threatens your area. We have another meteorologist, Aaron Thomas, with the breakdown about that.
Hey there, I'm meteorologist Aaron Thomas from the First Alert Weather Center, and this is the breakdown. Let's talk about why having a severe weather safety plan is important for you and your family. We've got severe weather season that is right around the corner here in the Mid-South. In March, April, and May, typically some very active weather patterns here across the Mid-South, and all modes of severe weather start to become a little bit more common, or at least the threat of them do. So it's important to have a plan in place, and a plan that you practice. Think of it like a tornado drill that you would have at school as a child. You need to plan this at home too, because sometimes you may only have seconds to act and to get to your safe place in your home, whether that be in a bathroom, a closet, or if you have an outdoor underground weather shelter. You need to have that plan in effect. But having a plan really does no good if you don't know that incoming severe weather is coming. So make sure you download the WMC First Alert Weather app. We will keep you updated on an incoming potential threat, and also you'll get notifications whenever there is a threat over your area. Enable notifications and you can get those weather alerts for your specific location. It's a very easy download. Just search WMC there in your app store and download the weather app. Another good tool to have is a NOAA weather radio. These are battery powered. Typically, you have to program them for your specific county, but that too will keep you updated on the current weather, let you know if there's a current warning for your area. Prior to a storm hitting, if you have the time, you will want to secure any loose or outdoor objects in your yard. And again, you need to review that safety plan with your family prior to having that severe weather hit your area. You can also monitor social media. We are on Facebook and Twitter. Search for Action Action News 5 on both, and if there ever is a warning for your area, you'll see wall-to-wall coverage with our meteorologists talking about those severe weather warnings or advisories that are in effect. That's it for today's breakdown. You can view others on Apple, Roku TV, and on Amazon Fire.
All right, Grizzlies, Lakers, they faced off last night, and man, the Grizzlies took it to the Lakers convincingly, especially in the second half. LeBron sat out this game due to an ankle injury. The Grizzlies were down by 3.5, and then Ja Morant just went off. He was jaw-dropping. He scored 28 points in the third quarter, ended up with a triple-double here, 39 points. 10 rebounds, 10 assists. The Grizzlies took the win, 121-109. They play at Houston tonight against the Rockets. Tip-off set for 7 o'clock. Memphis Redbirds tickets, they go on sale today. The team has been practicing for a little while now before taking the field for their first game later this month. They'll be taking the field against the Charlotte Knights, taking the Diamond on March 31st. And, by the way, the team is looking for people to sing the national anthem at the baseball games. You need to send them a video link of you belting out those stories. You can send an audition link through the Memphis Redbirds website by March 27th. Okay, let's talk about American Car Center. And customers and former employees are still very much in limbo since the business abruptly shut down last week. This morning, still, many people have a lot of questions about payments. It's a story we continue to follow to bring you answers. We've been talking about it here. There was a notice that was sent to the Tennessee Department of Labor Workforce. It's dated February 27th, which was 3 days after nearly 300 employees found that they no longer had a job. And so this letter notifies the agency of the permanent closure affecting 288 workers. It states that the employees at the facility not represented by a collective bargaining agreement. It says that the Greater Memphis Local Workforce Development Area has a rapid response team that's been notified to coordinate services. And since American Car Center's closed, we, of course, have received numerous complaints from those wanting to know how to make their payments. Now, according to their website, the company says customers should continue making payments to the American Financial per the terms of the agreement, but don't expect to be able to talk to a person over the phone. The company says American Financial is not able to accept payments by a live representative right now. You'll have to make those payments online through American Financial's payment portal or call the number listed on your website. And as a reminder, customers should look at the fine print of their contracts, read every little bit there to see which bank owns the title of their car to make those payments. All right, let's switch gears here and let's talk about a brand new study. It finds that managers are shouldering the burden of mental well-being at the workforce these days. Mental health, of course, a big concern, especially coming out of the pandemic. Well, according to the World Health Organization, approximately 12 billion workdays are lost each year to conditions like depression and anxiety. Mental health conditions can directly affect a person's quality of life, including their productivity at work. Let's bring in right now Dr. Joe DeGrasso. He is a PhD. He's a senior director of the workforce transformation at Lyra Health, and he's joining us on the Action News 5 digital desk. Dr. Grasso, how are you?
I'm well. How are you, Andrew?
Not too bad, not too bad. Working on a number of different things here, but mental health is always an issue that I kind of stop everything and pay attention to because it's so prevalent. And it doesn't matter what background you are, it doesn't matter how old you are, what gender you are, people are finding mental health issues everywhere. And it's affecting their work and it's affecting how productive they are. Where did you see in this study about mental health?
Well said. And what our study found echoes a lot of what you just mentioned. We found that 86% of workers that we surveyed across the United States reported that they had struggled with their mental health at least once in the past year alone. But only 33% reported that they had gotten any kind of care or treatment for their mental health. And when you combine that with the fact that 60% said that their mental health affects their ability to work, it really became clear that not only is this an issue for individuals, but it becomes a critical problem to solve for employers as well.
You know, it's interesting. It also said that that managers really shoulder the brunt of this mental health crisis that we're dealing with now. And I know a few managers, and they tell me all about this. It's such an issue right now. Why do you think that is, and how do we improve that?
It's true. Managers really feel the squeeze, because they have to report up to leadership in ways that hold them accountable for productivity and production from their team. But they're also answering to a team of employees that are more attuned to mental health than ever and recognize that a manager holds a lot of the cards when it comes to curbing risk of burnout and work-related stress. And so what managers need from their employer are more resources around how to recognize when work might be causing distress or mental health harm to teams, recognizing when an employee might need a referral to a mental health benefit or resource, and also recognizing that they need tools to lead teams in ways that create mentally healthy work cultures.
So, Doctor, what do we do to strengthen the workplace well-being for everybody out there? Because it really needs a lot of emphasis, and it feels like it just needs a lot of TLC.
It does, and we need to attack it from a few different angles. We need to make sure that employers are providing mental health benefits that get people into care quickly and get them matched with a provider who's well suited for their needs. So that way, when a manager does recognize someone's in distress, they can trust that that person's going to get the help that they need. Then we also need to train managers in how to lead these teams in ways that prevent the risk that work itself is causing distress. And so there's interventions that need to happen from within the company, but then there are also benefits and resources that employees need outside the company to get necessary care.
Can you share maybe some strategies, if there were some bullet points right now with our viewers? We have thousands of people watching us right now. Maybe some strategies out there that can help managers and others with the workplace and mental health well-being right now?
Absolutely. If you're a manager, I want you to hear the message that prioritizing your mental health is not only important for you, it's important for your team. And this can be simple things happening in the workplace, like making sure you're taking vacation, and when you do, you make sure to be fully offline and disconnected so that your team knows that they have permission to prioritize their mental health and be fully disconnected when they're away from work. Same thing with setting boundaries around work hours, not sending emails at 7, 8, 9 o'clock at night. And lastly, not going it alone. If you're a manager dealing with complex or tricky issues at work, model what it looks like to ask for help so that your team can recognize that it's okay to reach out for support when they're needing some extra help too.
What else, Joe? We've touched on a number of different things. Is there anything else you want to mention to our viewers that you feel might be beneficial to them?
Just to recognize that mental health is a universal issue. As you were mentioning earlier, everyone is affected by their own state of mental health. And no matter what your state of mental health is, it's worth you prioritizing investment into it. So this means doing things like ensuring you're getting good physical activity, you're socializing, you're getting good sleep, you're making sure to stop and maybe reflect with some gratitude on things that are going well in life, but also know that if your own attempts at taking care of yourself aren't cutting it, if you're still struggling with your thoughts or emotions or behavior that you're wanting to change, those are all good indicators that reaching out for mental health support from a professional is a really good idea.
Joe, this is a great conversation to have. Where can people go to get some more information? Maybe some of the things that you discussed.
Sure. To learn more about anything that we discussed, whether that's manager strategies or how you can take care of your own wellness, or to read all of the findings from our report, you can visit our site at Lyra, L-Y-R-A, health.com.
Okay, Joe Grasso, PhD, Senior Director of Workforce Transformation. We really appreciate the discussion. Very helpful and just shining a light on something that really needs to be addressed, not only this year, but going forward into the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
There is a new revolutionary cancer treatment we want to tell you about, and it is something that's certainly raising a few eyebrows this morning. It's available at Methodist Cancer Institute, and I want to bring in right now to the Action News 5 digital desk Dr. Lillian Rinker. She's Medical Director of Radiation Oncology for the Methodist Cancer Institute. Let's go ahead and talk about this revolutionary breakthrough here.
Well, thanks so much for having me today. We are so excited about this new technology. It's called the Elekta Unity. It's a combination of a magnetic resonance imaging scanner and a linear accelerator. An MRI scanner is a type of imaging that gives beautiful pictures of internal anatomy, and is especially helpful for giving radiation to cancer patients. That combined with a linear accelerator, which is the machine that typically is used to give radiation treatment, it gives us this revolutionary new technology. For instance, it is only one of 10 such treatment machines in the entire country. It's the only such machine in the Mid-South. For instance, you would need to go to Florida or Texas or Wisconsin to be able to access this type of treatment, and we just couldn't be more excited to have it. One of the most exciting things is that it gives us the ability really to see cancers in a way that we've never been able to see before in terms of radiation treatment. So for instance, organs like the liver and the brain that we just don't see too well with CT, MRI changes everything. We can so much better see the tumor, target it, and also see healthy surrounding tissues and stay off them. So we really have the ability to limit the dose to the healthy structures nicely. For instance, some of the areas that we excel in are in the abdomen and the pelvis. Think, for instance, of the pancreas, surrounded by stomach, small bowel, organs that move minute by minute, and the ability to stay off those organs and to actually focus in on our tumor. If our tumor shrinks, then, day by day, minute by minute even, we are able to refocus on that tumor and off of healthy, normal tissues. Another instance is in the pelvis, the prostate, for instance, or GYN malignancies. We're especially focused on GI and GU malignancies, or gastrointestinal and genitourinary malignancies, again, because of nearby small bowel, bladder, and rectum, which are much easier to see on this machine and avoid. Am I answering your questions?
So let me jump in a little bit, Doctor. Okay. Thank you so much, and I'm so glad that you're with us. And this revolutionary breakthrough is always great, especially when it comes to cancer treatment. Can you explain in layman's terms what patients went through before and how different it is going to be now in the most layman terms possible?
Right. So radiation is typically planned on a CT scan, which is a single snapshot of the area of the body that we're interested in. So when you're doing your planning for the radiation treatment, it's based on an image where you're contouring your cancer. You're also contouring and showing the computer really where your target is and where your normal organs are that you want to reduce dose or limit dose to. The difference here is that the imaging is with MRI instead of CT. We still do an initial plan, much like typical radiation treatment. The difference is that when a patient comes for treatment, instead of using the plan from day one, and this plan never changes, as our tumor shrinks, say a head and neck malignancy where you're getting some shrinkage of that tumor every week or day to day, we actually replan on the fly so that we can change our treatment, adapt our treatment minute by minute, not only to the size and shape and position of the tumor, but also to avoid organs around the tumor that are constantly in motion. So the ability to readapt during each treatment every day is revolutionary. It also takes longer. So a regular radiation treatment might take 15 or 20 minutes. This treatment, you may be on the table up to an hour. So it's not the right treatment for everybody. If you have a pacemaker or severe claustrophobia, this could be a problem as well.
So how new is this kind of technology, and what cancers are primarily affected with this? And what have been the results of this new treatment? I mean, is it showing vastly greater results for patients? Explain.
So the technology is quite new. With cancer research, we typically need years to help prove in an academic manner that one treatment is better than another. So we're not quite there yet with MRI, but we do have early studies that are showing significantly lower doses to surrounding critical structures. And we believe that within the next few years, we'll have such data. So especially, I'll go back to pancreatic cancer. That's a cancer that's traditionally been very difficult to treat, in part because it's hard to see. It's also surrounded by very sensitive organs, the liver, the stomach, small bowel, that are always moving. Because of this, in the past, radiation oncologists have had a hard time escalating the dose to the cancer in a way that really allows them to do a good job with that cancer. And this is such a technology that can really change that. For the first time, we have the ability to take into account the position of normal tissues minute by minute and avoid those tissues. Additionally, for the liver and brain, these are areas that we've had to rely on diagnostic imaging. And you can't go get a diagnostic MRI every day and plan off of it every day. That's just not feasible. Whereas this machine basically allows that. For the first time, we have the ability to use an MRI for a brand new treatment plan every day, on the fly, if you will. And that's just never been possible before.
That's great news. So I know that Methodist is just one of a handful of hospitals across the country that have this technology. Tell me what employees and what's been some of the reaction. Have patients been a part of this already? I mean, give me some reaction to some folks that deal with you and in cancer treatment facilities.
Right. So in general, as you might guess, that's been a tremendous reaction. With the pandemic, we were a little slower getting the machine put in place and ready to go than we otherwise would have been. We've been up and running since the end of October. But it's been a slow open. For instance, the staff, the physicist, the dosimetrist, and therapist who are so instrumental in giving this treatment have had to train long hours. They've worked very hard to be up and running for this machine, and we have actually treated a few patients already. They've done well, and everybody's tolerated the treatment quite well. We are looking to be busier, and hence the push now to kind of let the community, the Mid-South, know that we're open and ready. We're just so excited to be part of the future. This really does put Memphis and the Mid-South on the map in terms of cancer treatment in a way that we've never been.
Dr. Rinker, we have thousands of people that watch us here on the Action News 5 digital desk each and every day. A final question. What does this mean for the Mid-South from your perspective? And what would you like Memphis and the Mid-South to know, other than the details you explained to us, just know about this revolutionary technology coming to Memphis?
Yeah, so it's a wonderful new technology. Anybody who thinks they, might want to know more, might be a candidate for treatment, give us a call. We're happy to talk with you. We would love to get the word out. We would love to have more providers and patients come meet with us, check us out. Let's see if this treatment might be right, for people, in Memphis first, but case in point, for even surrounding states, you'd have to go to Texas or Wisconsin or Florida to get this treatment. So for people who are closer to us than those places, they should consider consultations here. I think as we grow and the machine becomes more in use, we will have or find many more ways that it excels.
Okay, Dr. Lillian Rinker, Methodist Cancer Institute, talking about the revolutionary cancer treatment that is now here and available for patients in the Mid-South. We appreciate your time this morning. Thanks very much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Amanda Hansen here at the Action News 5 digital desk, and we want to talk about an important topic, and that is colon cancer and the importance of getting screened, because with this particular cancer, it is so important, because by the time you start seeing those signs or symptoms, it's very progressed. So we have Dr. Steve Otieno joining us. He is an oncologist with Methodist Cancer Institute. Doctor, good morning. How you doing?
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
We're so glad to have you on. Yeah, and this is such an important thing, I think, to make sure you get the word out. And I guess the big thing to get started, when is the time for people to get screened for colon cancer?
The recommended age for screening is 45 years of age.
Good to know. And so I know I was kind of talking a little bit about this off the top, but why is it so important that people are getting these screenings? I know during the pandemic, a lot of people were putting off some of these types of things, but explain more on why early detection is so important and these screenings.
So the early detection, if colon cancer is detected early, it increases the chances of a cure. And a cure means that the disease is completely eradicated, and you can live the rest of your natural life as you would have without the disease. So it's very important. The reason why the age is 45 is that we are seeing a few more cases, an increase in the last few years in people who are younger than 50 years old. The older recommendations recommended screening at 50 years, but currently it was reduced to 45 years of age just because of this increase in patients who are younger than 50 years of age.
Oh, wow. And, I hear a lot about these at-home test kits, or these at-home kits, and, can you talk a little bit about those and how they maybe are different than going in and actually getting a colonoscopy?
So the at-home kits, and I'd like to emphasize this point. So the at-home kits are supposed to be used by those who are at average risk, which means that you don't have a personal history of colon cancer, you don't have polyps in a previous colonoscopy, you don't have certain diseases that increases your risk for colon cancer, things like Crohn's disease and things like that. So the at-home kits, usually one of the symptoms, and I'm going to kind of briefly discuss the symptoms here, is you can see blood. You can either see blood in your stool, or sometimes you may not see blood in your stool. And these at home kits, part of the home kits test for blood that's in stool, and this can be an early signal that there is something going on within your colon. So, and then there is some of the more newer tests like the Cologuard, which can test pieces of DNA that are shed from the colon cancer. However, it's important to note that if any of these tests are positive, the gold standard for screening for colon cancer is still a colonoscopy, and that is still what is used. So if any of those tests are positive, you'd still need to do a colonoscopy. So I personally recommend that if you are at age of 45 years and if there is no contraindication, that you get a colonoscopy.
Has the prep for a colonoscopy changed at all over the years?
Yes, the prep is not any patient's favorite part or anybody's favorite part, but there have kind of been improvements on the prep over the years. The volumes are smaller. The preps with the much smaller volumes. I know people who've had colonoscopies in the past are used to the big jug, big gallon of prep fluid, but there are even preps that come in terms of a much smaller volumes and they're flavored now. They used to have a nasty taste. So yes, the prep has improved over the years.
Well, that's good to know. I remember my dad, before he would go get his, and he had that big jug, and it was like just hard to get through. So it's good to know that things have progressed a little bit better for people that are having to do that prep, which of course, like you said, people just kind of dread doing that part of it. What is one of the myths, though, that you would like to address when it comes to colon cancer screening? Is there something you want to make sure people know?
Yes, one of the myths that I've heard around is that it's a disease that mainly affects perhaps elderly white males. That is not entirely true. We are seeing there are more cases in the African American community, and again, also there was the myth, and I keep educating patients, family members, and friends as much as I can. One of the myths is that colon cancer was a disease of elderly people in their 60s and 70s, and that we are seeing we are seeing more and more cases in younger patients. So I think there should be vigilance even in especially in the patients who are under 50 years of age.
And I know you touched on this a little bit, but what are some of those risk factors or even symptoms that people need to make sure that they're paying attention to and that they're aware of?
Yeah, so some of the risk factors, I had alluded to some of this a little bit earlier, is a family history. If you have a family member, especially under the age of 60 years old, and in particular, first-degree relatives, so I mean parents, siblings or children, your risk for colon cancer is increased. These are the patients who should go straight to colonoscopy and not, I would not recommend them doing perhaps this home-based test. The other things is that there are certain hereditary syndromes. So if you have a family member with something like Lynch syndrome, for instance, you need to talk to your doctor about perhaps getting tested with some of these hereditary syndromes. Other factors that increases your risk are things like obesity, diets that are heavy in meats and low in fruits and vegetables and fibers, and things like, age. That's a factor that you can't, of course, that you cannot modify. And so those are some of the risk factors. Now, going into the symptoms, one of the more common symptoms is sometimes patients see blood in their stool, but sometimes also the patients may be anemic, but this will be detected only if you go for your checks to the primary care doctor. So I still highly encourage that, because one of the early symptoms that gets picked up, and in fact, some of the patients that we see are patients that their primary care doctor just saw that they were anemic, and then they were tested, they did a colonoscopy, and they found that. So those checks to their primary care doctor are important. Things like abdominal pain, sometimes unexplained constipation or diarrhea, those can be some symptoms of colon cancer.
And it's good to know, and like you said, it's also good to know that there are steps that you can take as far as diet and that sort of thing to help kind of be a preventative measure to keep that from happening. So, Doctor, I appreciate you. Is there anything else you'd like to share before we wrap things up here?
again, the point I would like to emphasize is that if, to the viewers out there who are at 45 years of age or older and you've not had a colonoscopy to screen you for colon cancer, I highly recommend that you get it, because if the cancer is detected at an early stage, then it can be cured. And a lot of times you just need, if it's early enough, it can be cured just by a resection without needing any other treatments like chemotherapy and things like that. So early detection is very important to increase chances of a cure, and also basically limit the amount of therapy that you'd get in case, unfortunately, in case you're diagnosed with a cancer.
Okay. All right, that does it for us here in the Action News 5 Digital Desk. We have Action News 5 Midday coming up at the top of the hour. We're going to be talking about a first alert weather day today. The severe weather risk has increased here in the Memphis Mid-South area. So just to recap, there's severe weather expected later this evening and then again tomorrow. So 2 different rounds. We have it covered for you here on Action News 5. Again, midday, we'll be talking about it there. And then you can, of course, join us again bright and early tomorrow morning for another edition of the Digital Desk. We'll see you then.